Welcome in. Nice to have you aboard on this Wednesday afternoon, May the 20th. Wolo and Stats with you until 6. Busy show again today. David Waters will join us for our pandemic segment, and that is the fine journalist from the Daily Memphian who used to be with the Commercial Appeal, has written many, many different topics over the years, but religion is really a specialty these days, and we'll see how things have changed since the pandemic began 6 weeks ago. David Waters will be with us. TJ Reeves, as always, at 4. Rick Horrow on the business of sport. We've got lots of things to talk with him about at 4:30. Chris Landry from ChrisLandryFootball.com, who's all over this story with restarts and NFL and college, of course. And we look forward to chatting with him at 5, and then at 5:50. It'll be crunch time, and the news came out just a little bit ago. At least Pete Thamel is reporting that it is voted upon and sealed. The Division I Council voted to approve voluntary athletic activities in football, men's basketball, women's basketball to start June 1st and go through June 30th. Of course, there had been a moratorium on that date all the way through May 31st. That'll all come to an end on June the 1st. Other sports will be acted upon at a later date. So, how about that? We've got that. The Americans already putting together a medical task force on how they want to bring everybody back to campuses. Every sign today, Brett Norsworthy, live from the Avenues of the Americas in Forest City, Arkansas. Everything is pretty upbeat today.
It is upbeat, Dave, and a little momentum being gained. We always scotch it with safe and smart and hopefully soon. And it feels like it might be on the road. 11 weeks ago tonight was Rudy Gobert night. To put that into perspective, 11 weeks from today will be Wednesday, August 5th. That's football practice preparation time. And if by then we haven't had Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, pretty lost year.
That would also be the date. Is that the last date, or is the tournament already over in Memphis?
Tournament will be over that Sunday before that.
Sunday before that. So that is that date, is that a Monday?
Wednesday, August 5th, 11 weeks from today.
Wednesday, August 5th. Okay, yeah. So the tournament ends, I guess, August 2nd. That Sunday. Wow. That just goes to show you how lost with time I am. 11 weeks ago. That doesn't it?
11 weeks ago tonight.
It seems like years ago in some regards. It seems like days ago in others. It really does. When you're having this kind of
my reflection on it, March was not that bad because it was hitting us, and we weren't used to just that immediacy of a shutdown, but we were still in the aftershock. April was interminable. April was awful for me. I missed a lot of things from it. Ole Miss spring festivities. Start baseball, going to St. Louis, start of the Redbirds, going to the Masters, watching the Masters. April was really, really tough on me. May has not been as tough on April as April was because I think we have some hope. April, it did not feel like there was light at the end of the tunnel. I know it was, but it had a very daunting, forever feeling to it, a very foreboding feeling to it. May has not been that for me. And in June, with the Schwab and some other things, we will get the slow start back. Dave, I don't know if anything encapsulates the two sports more than these two tweets today from very noted media members covering both sports. We've talked about it. I don't think any other sport has a Woj in it. He is so clearly at the top of his in reporting. Not wild innuendo, not rumor, fact-based reportage. He nails it. The closest thing in baseball, and I don't know him at all, and I follow him, and he's good, but he's light years away from Woj, but he's at the top of the baseball reporting, I think, is Bob Nightingale. Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Agree or disagree?
I agree.
Okay.
I love reading Nightingale.
Here are the two tweets. Bob Nightingale, 39 minutes ago or so. Here's the tweet. They have no choice. MLB and players must play ball and settle economic dispute with formal proposal expected by weekend. Our sport will be irreparably damaged. 5 minutes later, Woj tweet. Reporting with Zach Lowe, NBA teams are expecting the league office will issue guidelines around June 1 that will allow franchises to start recalling players who've left their markets to return as a first step toward a formal ramp-up for the season's resumption. Does anything capture those two sports better than that?
No.
One's got hope. One is just Bobby Manfred's Earth Band just out there drifting in the wind.
Well, let me just tell you how dire it could be for baseball, as Bob Nightingale has pointed out. But the Oakland A's, we find out today, missed a $1.2 million rent payment that was due April 1st to the company that owns the ballpark in Oakland. So their lawyer is citing a force majeure clause for the reason that they can't pay. And the quote from the ballpark from the A's themselves are, we don't have the ability to pay. And that is because we haven't had any ball games. So if we do have a season that begins, and if you're allowed to be in your home ballpark, the Oakland A's may not be allowed to play in the stadium they've played in since the 60s because they are not up to date on rent. How sad is that?
It's very sad. And, several years ago, the A's, or it might have been Padres. I think it may have been the Padres. Heck, it may have been Seattle. It may have been all three. Right up to the eve of the season, almost first pitch, didn't have local radio deals.
That's hard to believe, because radio, especially back when you're talking about it, radio was a big revenue stream, and I think to this day it still is. I think if you look at the St. Louis Cardinal radio network, it still has 100 affiliates.
Yeah, but that's probably one of the more upper tier ones,
right? But it's been
that's probably really offset compared to the average.
Well, the baseball revenue equation has always included a good deal of revenue stream that came from the radio broadcast. Now, it has gone down and down and down in the years as the local television packages have increased, but it's still a pretty darn good stream. And the fact that they didn't have deals, that is really hard to believe. I gotta go. I gotta tell a story about when I woke up this morning. Got up early today, and I am the kind of person that when I get home, after I've checked my phone about 6:30 when I get home after this show, I put it on the charger, and most of the time, I don't look at it again. And I must confess, Brett Norsworthy, I was thinking of you last night when I turned.
Thank you, Dave. I was thinking of you too.
When I turned on the television and I saw the 2011 World Series, Game 6, of which you sat to my right, and I brought you out of comatose, I think twice, out of a comatose.
Not once, but twice.
Fetal position.
All but CPR once.
Right. And we did not do that. And I really thought about grabbing my phone and just texting you and going, I know this is on, and I got a feeling this is going to be a pretty good game. So I wake up this morning, and on my phone, there are 38.
You're in the middle of that text chain.
There are 38 texts between you and another guy who's one of the greatest Cardinal fans of all time. He's been on this show before, Chuck Galena, who's now with the University of Memphis in the communications department for the entire university. And, he has two loves. He's got the Cardinals and he's got the New York Yankees and in his family. And I'm not sure what the order would be on those three. And
his beloved Auburn Tigers.
There is 38 texts between the two of you guys. I am mentioned a couple of times in there. But I did not see that till like 6:30 this morning. And
Cardinals won.
I started laughing. Got news for you. Every time you watch that game, the Cardinals are going to win. David Freese is going to be really good in that game.
Yeah, he is, and boy, the Rangers just so totally mismanaged that. I still don't know what the right fielder was doing. The story is out there that he started slowly creeping in from the no doubles defense, basically with his feet on the warning track. He started slowly creeping in because he wanted to be the first to the celebratory dog pile. And that's how the ball got over his head for the tie, to tie it at 9-9 after Josh Hamilton's colossal clout that was, boy, I mean, as soon as he hit it, we could tell. I mean, that sound of the bat, couldn't we, Dave? Especially sitting where we were sitting. I mean, he smoked it.
That was going.
He got all 108 stitches. Whew. But the idea that the right fielder crept in a step or two or three or four to want to be in the dog pile. Oh man, I don't know if that's true or not, but that story is out there. And then as I texted you, the Cardinals that night used 22 of the eligible 25-man roster. The only three people they didn't use: right-handed pitcher Mitchell Boggs, left-handed pitcher Arthur Rhodes, and the presumed next night starter Chris Carpenter. And he was the Game 7 starter. But Tony La Russa said later, Westbrook had about one or two more batters. Then it was going to be Boggs or Rhodes next, probably Rhodes with a left-handed batter up. But if he had to, going into the 13, if it went 13 or 14, Chris Carpenter was going to have to go. And Edwin Jackson probably would have been Game 7 starter because he was basically wasted in a pinch hitting role when he was just announced in the on-deck circle but never got to the batter's box. But it was an epic night. I swear, Dave, I promise you, and I said it that night because there are a lot of people I know that are Rangers fans. I wanted the Cardinals to win. I'm glad things turned out the way they did. But I felt a little sorry for the Rangers because they had it won. They thought they had it won. Yeah. If you'll remember that afternoon when we were at a wine store out in Clayton, we bumped into one of their minority ownership groups guys from Little Rock, my buddy Teddy Skokas, and he was buying not for celebration champagne, but he was buying the good stuff for the victory party for that night, and they never got to it. And I felt sorry for Nolan Ryan. I did.
Yeah, when the ball when the Rangers take the lead off the big blast.
Yeah.
You know the game is over. You just know it. There's no way. And
Dave, I was on the pavement. I was down to the concrete.
I do remember you being on the pavement there. That's where I had to talk you off the ledge.
Crumpled mess.
Yes, I talked you off the ledge.
I had nothing left.
But I noticed, seriously, those two teams looked so beat up. They looked muddy. They looked dirty. They looked really sweaty. They looked tired. Like I was going, how can they even play a Game 7 tomorrow? How can they even do it?
Well, you had to fly home to Tiger to travel with the Tigers that Friday. I didn't go down to Auburn until that Saturday. That's where Ole Miss was that weekend. I went St. Louis, Memphis, Auburn that weekend. So I stayed for Game 7. And all my life, Dave, and I've been to World Series before 2011 and since, but I had never been to a Game 7. I had dreamed all my life to be in St. Louis at a Game 7, and it was a little flat, but because of what you just fans and players alike. Now the Rangers got off to that 2-zip lead in the top of the first, and then the Cardinals matched them, and it was kind of over. That was the last fight of the Rangers. They just had nothing left, and the Cardinals really won easily. But as fun as it was, and that was the night that the Cardinals won it, but de facto winning it what was the night before in Game 6 for David Freese. And then about 2 weeks later at Ole Miss played LSU, and David Freese and Ryan Theriot were guests of Lance Lynn, and they were all down there, and we had all of them on pregame with us, and David Freese was still in the celebratory afterglow, I can assure you. Well, they all were. They were feeling no pain.
I remember somebody saying, David Freese will never have to buy a drink in the city of St. Louis again.
Never. And he told the story that day with us, and I asked him, I said, what's it been for a St. Louis guy? Has it been life-changing? He goes, yeah, yesterday at the Shell station out in Ladue, I was filling up, and he said I was trying to pay at the pump, and it wouldn't take it. So I thought, I got to go in. So he goes in, tells the guy, goes, hey, I'm trying to pay on pump 6. He goes, oh, the guy in the green Ford took care of yours. How great is that? I mean, the rest of his life. The rest of his life will be like that. This hour of our show brought to you. I'm sorry.
I was just going to go. That is the legacy, right? I mean, you've got to know, and he was telling you that story just weeks after, right? But you got to know, especially after Game 7, that your legacy you'll be doing when you're 60 years old. You'll be doing
80
winter banquets. This
autograph shows.
It's like Bob Gibson was, or Lou Brock for all those years. Wherever they go, they're still beloved. It's legacy. It's set forever. I guess in the old mafia term, you're a made man.
He is a made man the rest of his life, and St. Louis native, and he had good Octobers after that for the Cardinals. He had a good October or so with the Rangers a couple years ago. He really has, and I got to know him a little, a smidge in Memphis with the Redbirds, and he had some travails, and he's worked through all those, and now just happy as he can be, happily married, and loving the dad life, and loving being a St. Louis legend life. It's the biggest home run in Cardinals history, and my single greatest sports night ever. It's just I don't know what's going to top it, but maybe if Ole Miss knocked one in from 51 in the SEC championship game to win it at the Horn, I don't know, but that night it was everything. It was fun, and it was fun being with you and and our whole crew. That was one of the and I say this around bowl times. Bowl trips are made on if you win or if you lose. If you win, it's the trip of a lifetime. If you lose, you can still have a good time. But that one really stood out with all our buds and how we did it, and with George there, and another great George was with us, and the whole crew, and Dave, you saw it. I can go to St. Louis on any given weekend and run into 20 people from this area or Little Rock that I know, and it felt like we knew everybody at the World Series that night, didn't we?
It sure did. We
really did.
We literally ran into 100 people that we knew, and that made it special. It really did.
It did everywhere we turned. This hour brought to you by Lexus of Memphis at 2600 Ridgeway and online at lexusofmemphis.com. Call them at 901-362-8833. Great offers on all those beautiful 2020 models and special lease options. They're big Cardinal fans at Lexus of Memphis. Drive in luxury and confidence knowing that every new Lexus comes with complimentary first and second maintenance services. Stop by today at 2600 Ridgeway and put yourself in the driver's seat of an all-new 2020 flagship LS500, and you'll be looking and driving in style. Online at lexusofmemphis.com. Phone number, again, is 901-362-8833. Experience amazing at Lexus of Memphis.
Top story of the day.
Well, we have mixed news today on the pandemic front. Find out we had 128 new cases, which is even more than we had on Monday, which was the largest we'd had since April 18th. The good news is no new deaths. We do now have 4,000 cases that have occurred in the Shelby County area. 88 have died. We had 2,615 tests on Monday, so that was a lot of tests. And that was good news. That was 4.4%. Yesterday, I don't know why. I don't know what the answer to this is. 1,700 tests, and it went up to 7.5%. So now we've had over 56,000 tests, and I believe the average positivity rate is 7.1%. It looked like it was really coming down. This was the first time it has shot up. By the way, the zoo's reopened, and they've upped the capacity. I think it's 50%, which means 5,000 people can go to the zoo, and the zoo really needs that. Did you know that the zoo could hold 10,000 people at one time?
I did not know that.
I didn't know that either.
Wow.
Until just now.
That's a big crowd.
Yeah, it is.
And it needs to be supported, and I don't know when the last time I've been to the zoo, but I hope I can and support them. Here's the COVID number. In Pennsylvania, COVID deaths over age 100, there are more COVID deaths over age 100 than people dying under 45. More deaths over age 95 than people under age 60, and more deaths over 85 than under 80.
Huh.
in the state of PA.
John Glenn's
My top
wife, late
Wasn't
John
that sad?
Glenn, she was 100, and it was COVID that got her.
Did you hear that they were married 73 years?
I did. 73 years. Can you imagine that?
What a love story. You know,
Yeah.
she really brought to the fore with his political races and with his notoriety from NASA, from the space from Gemini on. She was a severe chronic stutter most of her life with that speech impediment, and she got it cleared up later in life, and she was a real champion of that, and what a beautiful couple that they were, and what a hero John Glenn was.
Oh yeah.
My top story. Well, I'm sorry to have to announce that a virus has hit me. It's brought on confusion, irritation, and some signs of absolute desperation. The virus it has been brought on to me. I'm agreeing with Danny Cannell on something. Danny Cannell was right to take on Pat Forty. Pat Forty talking about, the semester's going to end so early, and they're going to be using the basketball players. And Danny Cannell rightly blasted him back, and this was the tweet that Danny Cannell sent out. He goes, yeah, just like every other year, football and basketball, not to mention other sports, have always stayed on campus while school was out, and people go home on break to prep for bowl games, preseason camp, postseason play. Why are people now making such a big deal out of this? I tried to make that point about summer times. On a college campus during the summertime, the largest majority of people on campus are athletes, not banking and finance majors, not zoology majors, not English lit majors. The campus is ripe with athletes.
Well, if you'll recall, and it became famous with John, we called it Camp Cal. The players get to go home the 24th, 25th, and they're back on the 26th. That's the way it's always been. He uses the month of December, and he does it at Kentucky now. He did it at UMass. He did it at Memphis. He uses that to do double practices each day, and the teams always get better and better and better. Penny's doing the same thing. All these coaches are doing the same thing.
Sure.
Football teams, this is when you get those extra practices that make you better the next year. The bowl practices, that's usually during this kind of a break. So the point is well taken. It's always been that way. This is nothing new. Nothing
Always.
New. Yeah.
Not top story of the day.
Well, it could be the Oakland A's. I mean, I just can't believe they couldn't make rent. But this wrestler from WWE, Gaspard is his name. This is a sad story. He was out swimming with his 10-year-old son off the California coast, and a riptide came. And it took both of them rapidly out to sea. The Coast Guard saw this. They were able to rescue the 10-year-old boy, but Gaspard, who was a WWE star at one time, he went under, and they didn't find him for a couple of days. His body washed up this afternoon. Gaspard has passed away. Luckily, fortunately, his son was saved, but how terrible is that fate? Very, very sorry for that family.
That is. My not top story, the owners in Major League Baseball, as always, they have the players in a terrible box. Tom Glavine's weighed in. He's mostly right, but the players, and here's the PR optics of it, because most of us can't imagine being paid enormous sums of money for something we all either tried and did poorly or okay as youngsters to some degree. We can't imagine that kind of money, but just like the owners, they're in a special 1% of people that can do that, like the owners are in a special 1% of people that can own a team. But the owners have seized the high ground in the baseball argument, and I would have to bet right now on a yes or no bet, there's no deal.
Here's my take on this. I don't see how there is not a deal. And if there isn't, this all goes back to mistrust for 50 years, where owners and players don't trust one another, and there's not a strong enough arbitrator, man in the middle, commissioner, whatever you want to name it, that can get together with the players' union and make it right. It's almost a little like in the Middle East with Palestinians and the state of Israel. There's so much past that's negative that you can't seem to get past what could be fence mending. But if you've got an ownership that could lose $4 billion, according to Rob Manfred, if those numbers are accurate, $4 billion, they can't afford that. The A's can't afford their rent today. Then you've got players, and Blake Snell, I understand. There is some risk involved here, and you should be getting $9 million this year. But there's only half the game, so you're only going to get $4.5 million for 1 year. But you are going to get your full year of service for your pension down the road, if that's any consolation to you at all the benefits you get from a year in service you would get this year. How can you afford not to do that? How can you afford to make nothing this year? It just seems to me there's too much to lose on both sides. How can they not make a deal? That is my question. And we are underway. We're sitting in the Family Leisure Studios, and I again remind everybody, staying at home can really be enjoyable if you go to Family Leisure. They make your backyard a staycation venue. They do. Complete pool packages now starting as low as $15.99. 24-foot pools, $19.99. The four-person spa, same price, $19.99. Swim spas, those big mammoth, beautiful, beautiful spas. They start at under $10,000. The high-quality swing sets, they've been discounted to $21.99 all the way from $34.99. And they're offering contractless purchasing. The deliveries and the curbside pickup are all there for you. If you call, schedule an appointment, then you place your order, and they bring it out to you. It is all so safe. It is all so easy, and those deals are terrific. Family and fun still coming together at I-40 and Whidden Road at a place that we like to call Family Leisure. We will take a short time out. When we return from the Daily Memphian, who writes about religion, David Waters, is next.
We are Sports 56 WHBQ. Listen to us daily on AM 560, 96.1 FM, or 87.7 FM.
Hi, folks. Bob Burkheimer for Sunrise Chevrolet. A lot has happened overnight, and just wanted to let you know we're open at Sunrise for all your automotive needs. Service, body shop, parts, and sales. Go online to sunrisememphis.com to schedule an appointment. Should you need a vehicle, we're offering 0% up to 84 months with deferred payments up to 120 days. You can shop online. We'll bring the car or truck to you. At Sunrise, we know you want to feel safe, so bring your car to any Sunrise location. We'll disinfect it at no charge. Find new roads to Sunrise Chevy in Collierville.
Hey, sports fans, you already know the Butcher Shop has been a great Memphis tradition since 1981, and it still is. The Butcher Shop is absolutely open for your takeout with curbside pickup or Grubhub delivery because the Butcher Shop is still serving your favorite steaks, fish, and seafood. But now you can also pick them up raw and take them home to cook. You get the highest quality from the Butcher Shop and the comfort of home cooking. All wine and beer selections can be sold and picked up curbside as well. Plus, order curbside and pickup and receive 10% off your food order. And how about Burger Fridays? Treat your company to lunch, and the Butcher Shop will deliver Hamburger Friday any day of the week with all the fixins for just a minimum $250 order. The Butcher Shop is here for you, so don't worry about getting a great meal. The Butcher Shop has cooked or uncooked meals for curbside pickup or Grubhub delivery. Call 757-4244 or online at thebutchershop.com. The Butcher Shop at the Agri Center, Walnut Grove, and Germantown Parkway. Looking for a great place to deposit your money? Try First Bank. Competitive CD rates, a money market that moves with Wall Street prime and interest-bearing checking account options. Not to mention their friendly bankers who make decisions locally. To find out more, stop by one of First Bank's 3 local branches. 6482 Poplar Avenue, just east of International Paper. 8398 Highway 64 across from Wolf Chase. And 6280 Highway 64 in Oakland. Or visit firstbankonline.com. Member FDIC.
You'll see the dedication in every single step. You'll see it in the smiles when smiles are hard to get. You'll see it in the little things that add up to success. The caring and passion are the things that we love best.
Wolf Chase Limb Embrace is your Mid-South provider for orthotics and prosthetics. They are an ABC-accredited facility, and their practitioners are ABC certified. At Wolf Chase Limb Embrace, their services include artificial limbs, legs and arms, braces of all kinds, and custom molded inserts. You can call them today at 901-507-7821 for their location on Highway 64 in between Germantown Parkway and Appling Road, or visit them at their new location in Jackson, Tennessee. That number is 731-660-5900, or visit them on the web at wolfchaselimbembrace.com.
Dedicated our life to yours. Wolf Chase Limb and Brace.
Got something you want to get off your chest?
You better have a backup plan.
Want to join the conversation?
Someone needs to tell him he has to grow up.
Join us on the First Bank phone lines at 360-8255 or the First Bank text line at 67129. Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Lexus of Memphis. Here once again are Dave Wolochin and Brad Norsworthy.
What I'm saying is, this is the anthem. Throw all your hands up. Y'all got to feel me. Sing if you're with me, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We're all with you. It's a beautiful day. Another gorgeous spring afternoon on this Wednesday. It was about, I'm going to say, 6-7 weeks ago when we first chatted with our friend David Waters, who writes religion and I think spirituality for the Daily Memphian, and we asked him how this pandemic was, really affecting our psyches, our lives, the ministers, the rabbis, every religion that could be involved with churches and synagogues and mosques and everything else, and how that was going then. Now here we are, a lot later, a lot harder, I think, psychologically, harder to, maybe the last couple of days you're starting to see a little bit toward the other side of the mountain. Maybe. Let's find out if that's the way David Waters sees it. About 6 or 7 weeks later. David, thank you for giving us time this afternoon. How are you?
I'm good, Dave. Hi, Brett. Thanks for having me again.
Thank you for joining us again, David Waters. And Dave set it up perfectly. I mean, this roller coaster we've been on, what have you been on, and what are you experiencing in your interaction with people?
Well, I think it's been one of the most fascinating things I can remember. I have been incredibly impressed, and I think all the officials in Memphis have, especially the health officials, and how well Memphians have done in this pandemic, how well they've supported each other, how well they've followed some of the rules and regulations that have come down, how they've cooperated and collaborated. And I think that's, showing up in the numbers. The numbers over the past few weeks have been incredibly strong and encouraging, and really they've kind of shocked some of the doctors and how low they have become. And I talked to a doctor a couple of days ago, and he used the word unanticipated. He said he had no idea that the numbers would fall like they have and stay down like that. Now, that doesn't mean that things are over and we can all go back to normal. We can't, and that's the main message that they want to get out, is that we're far from seeing this thing be over. But so far, what we've all been doing has been working, has been helping keep the numbers down, keep the numbers flat, and we have made remarkable progress, especially considering some of the other places in the country and the world that have had much more dire consequences.
And some of those that have bucked the system, so to speak, have really been preachers, men of religion that wanted their churches to remain open. And, some were defiant, some actually were taken to jail because of it. That did not happen here, thank goodness. No. But there were some that just felt like this was wrong, and we're finding out more and more that inside, especially like choirs where singing is going on, which has the ability, because you are using your mouth and you're using your vocals to really project out, that we're getting bigger clusters there. What do you think the response has been, mainly locally here, from the religious leaders about doing this either online or not having their congregations together, which I know is a financial hardship for them?
Yeah, that's really true. It's a substantial hardship for a lot of churches, especially a lot of small churches that don't have the resources and don't have the, any kind of backup, any kind of money that they can count on in hard times. a lot of churches are living week to week, and they're paying their bills week to week, and they've got bills to pay. They've got utility bills to pay. They've got rent to pay. They've got pastor salaries and other things to pay, and they're living on collections, and they're living week to week. And a lot of these churches are hurting. I think there was a slow learning curve, and I think it took a while, a couple of weeks at least, for sort of all the churches and all the religious folks to sort of catch on to what the real problem was and why they needed to close and do the right thing. And I think that has happened generally. In fact, when people would get complaints, if you saw a church and it was still meeting late March, early April, people would call the city to complain. The city would go investigate, or the health department would go investigate. And they said 99 times out of 100, people either just weren't aware yet or weren't aware of exactly what they should be doing yet. And they were fine. Once everything was explained, they closed the place down and they went about doing other things other ways. So I think it was just a learning curve for a lot of people. I also think that there were a few folks and a few preachers who decided that, their faith was going to, they were going to show how faithful they are by not being afraid to continue to worship and pray and praise God together. Now, I think there's a certain level of understanding we all have about that sort of approach, because we all believe that, we should not show our fear in the face of this. And some people don't wear masks because they don't want to show fear. Some people want to go to church and be together because they don't want to show fear. But I think everybody ultimately has realized that it's not about showing fear. It's about protecting not only ourselves, but each other. And that the best way you can show your faith in your fellow man and in your community is to practice safe social distancing and to be concerned about the other person. And that's why you wear a mask, and that's why you don't go out in large crowds and worship together or party together, because you are showing that you care about your neighbor and you don't want to spread the virus to them any more than you want it to spread to you.
David, you mentioned about the shutdown, and a little surprised, a little shocked on how well that we did. If we had to do it again anytime soon, and by soon, maybe even over the course of the next 6 months to a year, do you think there's any shot that we would do it again? We did it one time. Do you think if we had to, a second wave or something else, COVID-20, what if we had to do it again?
Well, let's pray that there's no such thing as COVID-20. But I think that's a real concern, and I think that that's something that we may have to face, especially in the fall. I do think we can do it again if we need to. I think that this community can rally around our leaders and each other, especially our health officials. If they say that we need to do it, I think we'll do it. I think the hardest part is going to be coming in August, when school is supposed to start back, not just K-12, but college campuses as well, daycares. That's when people are really going to be ready to go back to work, need to have the kids in school and daycare. And I think that's going to be the real test, not only how we do that and how safely we do that, but what happens if there are outbreaks, there are clusters of outbreaks in various schools or in various places because of that. Normally, the summer months, there's a lot of people scattered on vacations, and, people are not going to church as much as they usually do during the year. So it might be a little easier to go through phase 2 and phase 3 as we move into the summer. But once the summer comes to an end and school year starts, that's going to be the challenge. And I think that the public officials are definitely aware of that. And so one of the things they're trying to do is, in order to make sure that we don't have to do another lockdown, even if the numbers start creeping up, one of the best ways to prevent that, according to the epidemiologists who are in charge of this thing, and they truly are in charge of what decisions are being made, at least in Memphis and Shelby County, they're saying that we've got to have, number one, more testing. And in fact, we've got to have not only more testing, we've got to have a system where we can have every school kid, every college kid, every person who works at various businesses, hospitals, first responders, FedEx, whoever, to have the ability to test everybody on a weekly basis. Now, I know that sounds crazy, and it sounds impossible, and it might prove to be, but they come up with new tests that they call self-administered tests. So you can take the swab and swab yourself, or you can swab your kid, or a teacher can swab a kid. And they put the swab in a bag, and they get the bag sent to a lab, and it's tested. And if you did that every week, it's a pretty quick thing. It's not painful like the current testing is. If you were able to do that with every kid or every teacher and every business person, at least once a week, if not once every other week, then you'd be able to catch most cases, and you'd be able to isolate and quarantine those people who test positive. And that's how you keep the schools open, and that's how you keep the colleges open and keep businesses open. Now, you're talking about a massive mobilization here, logistical challenge. You're talking about 20, 30, 40,000 tests a week, which sounds impossible, but they claim that it can be done. And so they're trying to figure out a way to make that happen. And that may be the way that we go forward, not only locally, but as nationally, until we get a vaccine.
You are saying exactly what the mayor actually told us yesterday about the testing. And I will relay a little story. My wife, who was very leery of getting the tests the way they were being done at these testing centers, because they would literally take the Q-tips, the swab thing, and they would send it way up your nostril, where I've heard people say you feel like they're going in your brain. And it is really, really uncomfortable. Then she heard about this self-test, and she went and got it. I think it was at the Walgreens parking lot, or I should find out for sure. She went and got it done, no pain whatsoever, and within 24 hours she got the result. And that's what we're going to talk about. I want to take this a step further, though, because we're talking about the kids and the ability to test those people, and I get that. One thing I think we forget about with these kids, going back to school, is how old are the teachers? If you're talking about what's the average U of M professor age when he gets to that age or she gets to that age, it's in the higher risk category.
Dave, what's the average congregant at any faith place?
I don't know. It's
older.
It's not like a 25-year-old college kid going to school, or a 22-year-old that's going to go to a football game. We're talking about people trying to do their job that are in their 60s, whether it's grammar school, high school, or college. What about those teachers? Where are we? What are we going to do about them?
Well, that's a great point, and that's something that they're definitely talking about, trying to figure out. Not only do you have a lot of folks, a lot of teachers, a lot of people in workplaces who are over 60, but you've also got a lot of folks who have underlying conditions like obesity and diabetes and high blood pressure. So if you add all that up, you're probably talking about a majority of employees in most schools and most colleges and most places. So what do you do about that? And one of the things they've been talking about is, do you have teachers test the kids? Well, that could be problematic if the teachers are in a high-risk situation. So do you try to hire somebody or point like one person per school to do all the testing? Maybe it's a part-time nurse or something like that. I mean, they're trying to weigh and measure all of these things to try to figure this out. It's a logistical challenge. It's really a FedEx. It's such a big logistical challenge. They claim they can get the test. They claim they can make the lab space to get the test. They've got this new way of testing that they call pooling. So you test 10 people, you have 10 samples, and you test all 10 of those samples at one time. And that saves you 90% of your cost. And they still think you can find out all the positives from that. So they're working on this, and it's going to be a real challenge. But honestly, a lot of the docs don't see any other way to open schools this fall if we're not having mass testing.
David, it's never easy to be a person of faith, and whatever that is. I'm not talking about whether it's Jewish, Gentile, whatever it is. To be a person of faith, like anything else of any discipline, it's hard to be a disciplined exerciser or a disciplined proper eater. What do you say to people that their faith has really been rattled during this pandemic?
Yeah, well, how could it not be? Anytime there's a crisis of this magnitude, whether it's a war or whether it's depression or whether it's some kind of disease or even a personal crisis in your family, that's going to test your faith. And I've talked to so many people over the years who have had their faith tested personally, professionally, in a community setting, nationally, and I think that bottom line, that's what faith is all about, really. I mean, if you can't rely on your faith and call on your faith in times of trouble, then what good is it? But I also think that one of the particular challenges for this time and this disease and the social distancing that we have been required to do is that you don't have as much contact with other people in your community, in your family. You can't hug people like you used to. You can't sit with people and pray with people and have dinner with people and church suppers and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's been as much of a challenge as anything to people's faith, because I think people are realizing that faith is not an individual act. It's not a private thing. It's a community-based thing. It's something you do with your family, with other people of faith. And that gives you strength, and that gives you the courage and fortitude you need to get through times like this. So I think that's been the challenge as much as anything else. And I think Zoom helps a little bit, but I've done church on Zoom. I've done Bible study on Zoom. I've done family meetings on Zoom, and it's fine, but it's not what you really need. So going forward, I think that is going to be the hardest thing. And I think it's also something we have to keep in mind with kids. Kids are used to going to school and being with other kids and being with their teachers and seeing their family members and playing with neighbors. And, they haven't had that. So what kind of impact is that going to have on them short term and long term? And I think that that's another reason that officials are working so hard to make sure that we can open schools this fall, because it's not just about the academic support that these kids need. It's about the social and emotional support that schools provide these kids, especially kids in distressed homes and neighborhoods.
This is a topic for another day, and we'll probably do this one more time before this pandemic is over. But as far as religious leaders go, so many of them are, have specialties in a particular aspect of history or prayer. Some are just great orators and sermons. I got a feeling some of these roles will change to being more psychological counselors, guiding in that way, maybe using religion too, but really being counselors, bringing people back from what could very well be a very devastating situation that they find themselves in now.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, I think if you talk to just about any clergy person, no matter what faith, I think most of them know or realize that, a big part of their role, if not the biggest part of their role, is pastoral. It's not just standing up in front and preaching or teaching, and it's not running an organization, not, sitting in theology classes and doing all that kind of thing. It's just being with other people and finding ways to support them and help them get through hard times. And that's taken a real hit, because you can't meet with people like you used to.
Right.
So I think that one of the challenges for people of faith in general, and pastors and clergy leaders in particular, is trying to figure out what you do in times like this when you can't be in with another person face to face in a counseling situation, in a small group situation, or a large gathering. How do you connect with people? How do you be with people, be present with people? So much of what clergy do when they make visits to hospitals or make visits to home shut-ins or people who are sick is just to be with them. They don't have to tell them anything or teach them anything. It's just that their presence that makes a difference, the fact that they care. And that has, you can't even visit people in the hospital now. So
yeah, that's sad.
I think that's been a real challenge, and it's going to continue to be for all of us, but especially for clergy leaders.
He is David Waters. You read him in the Daily Memphian. Really, thanks again. I'm sure we'll do this one more time. We truly appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys. Good to talk to you.
David Waters from the Daily Memphian. We take a quick timeout, back with a quick wrap.
The word is out about R&R on Sports, where you've heard interviews from
Ken Griffith Jr., Dr. J, Hank Aaron, and many, many more.
Right here, R&R on Sports, Saturday mornings, 9 a.m., Sports 56, 96.1, and 87.7.
Don't miss it.
Hey everybody, our friends at All-Star Chevrolet in Olive Branch say congrats to the high school and college class of 2020. And it's a great time to help your grad get a new or pre-owned Chevy. And if you're ready to get that new Suburban, Tahoe, Silverado, Blazer, or even pre-order one of those hot new Corvettes, All-Star Chevrolet in Olive Branch is where you want to be. Because the people at All-Star Chevy make it fun, easy, and safe, whatever makes you comfortable. They'll even bring any All-Star Chevy car, truck, or SUV to you. And you'll pay a lot less than at those city dealers. GM's financing means no payments for 4 months and 0 interest for 84 months. That's on any new Equinox or Silverado. Thousands in cash back with Blazers, Silverados, and more. And everybody at All-Star Chevy has one job: to make sure you get a better deal, have more fun, and in record time. And all sanitized and safe for you. They'll even pick up and deliver for maintenance and service. Remember, it's not the Pike, not South Haven, not Mount Moriah or Collierville. It's gotta be Olive Branch, people. So find new roads to All-Star Chevrolet today or go to allstarautogroup.com.
Tee it up at Edwin Watts Golf Shops with their Memorial Day sale happening May 22nd through the 25th. All Nike golf shoes are 25% off. Score an epic deal on Callaway's Epic Flash Driver, now only $349. Save big with the G400 driver, now only $249. Remember, the more you buy, the more you save, and receive up to 25% off all apparel. Edwin Watts Golf Shops Memorial Day sale happening May 22nd and May 25th. Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 90-day 100% satisfaction guarantee, serving golfers since 1968.
Hey folks, I'm Jarrett Carter. My family recently purchased East Memphis Ace Hardware at Quince and White Station, and we're excited to offer the best selection of Big Green Egg and Traeger grills. And then don't forget about our Benjamin Moore Paint Studio and the Garden Center for flowers. Save 60% with our new Duracell key fob replacement program. We have a master locksmith service as well as glass cutting and screen repair. East Memphis Ace Hardware, located at Quince and White Station behind Three Little Pigs.
Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Lexus of Memphis. Here once again are Dave Wolochen and Brett Norsworthy.
Welcome back in. I know about a little bit later in this program, I think we'll do it at about 4:50 or so. Brett Norsworthy's run some attendance numbers from the last year on FBS football games. And in relation to social distancing, we will get into that. I look forward to the good homework.
Are shocking. 41,000 the average last year across FBS, 130 teams.
That's better than I thought.
Dave, there are 56 SBS stadiums that the capacities are less than the average.
I'm looking forward to go over that, but I have to tell some sad news that I just learned during this break. Jim Riggs, who was my boss with the Memphis River Kings way back when. When is that, about
92?
92? Jim Riggs passed away today. I'm trying to find out exactly what happened and where he was. I don't know if it was COVID-related, but I think a lot of us are stunned because Jim Riggs was so full of life. I've never seen a guy love a sport more than he loved hockey. Really. He had a passion.
He did love the River Kings. He loved the Coliseum, and he loved his Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's why the River Kings had the same colors.
Exactly right. Yeah, he did. He loved the Mid-South Coliseum, but basically he was the guy that moved them to the Lander Center, now the Lander Center. It was the DeSoto County Civic Center at that time, and I'll never forget this as long as I live. He said, Wolo, I'm telling you, right from the Mid-South Coliseum to the Lander Center, it's 12 minutes. 12 minutes. Easy drive. I want to see even me with the lead foot in my G70. No way. No way could you do it that quick.
It's hard to do that, but Jim was very kind to a lot of people.
He was.
I'm sorry to hear that news, Dave.
I am. I'm trying to remember the name of his wife. She was a lovely lady, and she was there for every game. She was a great partner to Jim Riggs. She truly was.
I'm telling you, there were some good atmospheres at River Kings, Nashville.
Early games.
Playoff. Yeah. I mean, it was fun at the Coliseum.
That first year that I did it with Steve Carlson as the coach.
Yeah.
That was
92. That was kind of the apex,
that
too.
To me was just a ball. And I met so many new people, and it was such a new experience. And Jim Riggs he's the perfect GM. You know why? Because he was a little like Bill Veeck. He wanted there to be something special for every game, and he wanted he wanted to make it fun for the fans.
Dave, wouldn't y'all do a weekly show like over at the Sports Pub or somewhere?
We did. Yes, we did. It was on REC. Yeah. That's sad news. Jim Riggs. I don't even know his age. I would say he was right around 70. We'll find out for sure. But Jim Riggs, for those of you who remember him, and many of you will, Jim Riggs passed away today. I'm so sorry. My thoughts and prayers to his wife and the rest of his family. We take the time out. Back with hour number 2 in a minute. TJ Reeves. We go to Tampa to talk to our buddy. He's next.
Frontier Western Store is open and ready to serve you for all your needs in boots, apparel, pet food, and more. Frontier is proud to be a local leader here in the Mid-South when it comes to boots. Stop by the store today for an incredible selection of name-brand work and dress boots. Come browse aisles and aisles of top-quality boots at everyday low prices in our world-famous boot showroom. Dan Post, Rocky, Durango, Twisted X, Georgia, Ariat, and many more. There are so many styles, colors, and fits available, you might need a hand picking out your favorites. Luckily, Frontier's knowledgeable sales staff will cheerfully assist you with any questions you have and ensure the proper fit of your new boots. Frontier also has an amazing selection of jeans and shirts by Wrangler, Ariat, and Carhartt, as well as a fully stocked women's boutique department with thousands of tops and dresses at unbelievable prices. New arrivals often. Frontier Western Store, 5880 Gilman Road in Olive Branch, and on the web at frontierwesternstore.com. Family owned and operated since 1967.
Did you know nearly 40% of men under 40 and over 75% of men over the age of 40 experience sexual performance concerns? At the Memphis Men's Clinic, their experienced physician performs a comprehensive evaluation that determines which specific issues may interfere with your sexual performance. These issues can vary and range from anxiety to medical issues, low testosterone, or erectile dysfunction. The Memphis Men's Clinic has evaluated hundreds of men of all ages over the years and reestablished a normal sexual life. The Memphis Men's Clinic will work aggressively to resolve issues and allow you to restore your sexual health and overall well-being. That's the Memphis way. If you're 20 years old or 90 years old, come and get cared for the Memphis way. Treatment that's based on your specific needs after a professional clinical evaluation by their experienced board-certified physician. Call the Memphis Men's Clinic today at 901-443-0475 or visit memphismensclinic.com.
I'm Dr. George Flynn with an update on the skin clinics and COVID-19. We continue to be open for elective medical procedures such as Botox, Scarlet, and Agnes. And we thank you for abiding by our new safety protocols and for your patience with longer than average times for appointments. We're still having reduced appointment times for the safety of our clients and staff. At this time, after consulting with outside medical experts also and following the community guidelines, we believe it best to wait to offer aesthetic services such as brow shaping, waxing, and facials. We look forward to offering these services as soon as possible. The Skin Clinics is currently accepting names for a waiting list that we will use to fill appointment times when we can begin offering these services and these procedures. Call us at 345-7546. That's 345-SKIN to book your medical procedure or to get on the waiting list for aesthetic treatments. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
We are Real Sports Talk. Sports 56, 96.1, and 87.7. Available on your radio dial at 560 AM, 96.1 FM, and 87.7 FM. As well as online around the world at sports56whbq.com. Take us with you everywhere on your phone or tablet by downloading the Sports 56 app. And at home, tell Google or Alexa to play Sports 56. Wherever you are, stay tuned to Real Sports Talk. Sports 56, 96.1, and 87.7. We are Sports 56 WHBQ Memphis, WIVG FM Tunica Memphis, and WPG FLP Memphis. Flynn Broadcasting Stations. Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Red Norsworthy.
Welcome in on this glorious Wednesday afternoon. Wolo and Stats with you. It is a day of hope in some regards because today the NCAA Council recommended, well, didn't recommend, they voted, the end of the lockout, the end of closed locker rooms and workout facilities, all the gyms, all the fields, the end of that.
Ohio State's ready to report.
June 1st, everybody can report for men's football, men's basketball, women's basketball. The other sports will get a later start. I am learning that Jim Riggs, who I think was living in South Carolina at the time, passed away from a heart attack he had a day or two ago, went into a coma, and unfortunately did not come out. It was not COVID-19 that took the life of Jim Riggs at way too early a time. If you hadn't heard, we just got that information, and we are passing that along to you. He was the general manager for the River Kings for years, moved them from the Mid-South Coliseum, sort of forced to do that as the building got older, and went to the DeSoto County Civic Center, which is now the Landers Center, and really got them solidified in a very, very good way. He was excellent at what he did. I was reminded by Steve Earhart that he also, and this is a little eerie, he also worked for the AutoZone Liberty Bowl for about a year before he went back into hockey. He didn't want to leave Memphis as soon as the hockey team went away here. And oddly enough, this is weird, Stats. He actually had the office that belonged to Pepper Rogers.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's weird. Weird. I just got a text from TJ Rave saying, are you guys still calling me? And we've been trying, is what I'm texting him. Keeps going to his voicemail. So, anyway, weird day when you get a guy, because I'm going to say, Jim, I don't think he was 70. Do you? Do you think he was that old?
I don't think so.
Oh, well.
But the Ohio State, they're going to report soon. The West Virginia Chancellor Gordon G. is really bullish, and the SEC is going to vote on Friday. So it looks like open for the month of June. It looks like they're going to take it step by step, month by month, see how June goes. It won't take much to derail it, Dave. It will not.
Well, no.
I don't know what the number of positive tests have to be, but I don't think it would have to be a whole bunch.
Well, it would be just insane, honestly, if you were to think that there's not going to be any cases. There has to be, in the design of bringing all these athletes back, just the way it's been talked about for the PGA, just the way it's been talked about for MLB, just the way it's been talked about for the NBA, it has to be discussed that there is a plan for when somebody, not if, for when somebody on a team with a protocol, when they get the coronavirus, because it's going to happen.
And from golf today, the people at the Memorial Tournament, Jack Nicklaus's tournament, they are beseeching, as all the golf entities in the state of Ohio are, the governor, Mike DeWine, let us have fans. And they lay it out, and it's obvious. We don't make it without fans. We can have a tournament. We can have a lot of sports, but it takes rain to have rainbows, and it takes fans to have it next year.
Well, I can tell you that we'll know for sure if there are going to be fans in Memphis this Friday, because that's when they have to make their deals on construction of the stands. Now, it would not be totally definitive because, again, there could be fans, but just not stands like the old days, like going back to the 50s and the 60s. So we'll have to wait and see how all of that works out. In the meantime, as promised, we go to Tampa. Our friend TJ Reeves. I've just getting all kinds of weird information today, and I get this from a couple of friends. The NFL jersey sales rankings, it's like this. Everybody from Florida here. The number one jersey sold so far, believe it or not, Dolphins Aqua Tua Tagovailoa. Dolphins White is number 2. Then Brady Pewter, Brady White Vapor is what they call it. Brady Red, that's 3, 4, 5. Brady Red Vapor is 6. Gronk Pewter 7. Then there's a Bengals. Joe Burrow gets in there at 8. Gronkowski in Bucks Red is 9. And Brady in Bucks Pewter Alternate is 10. 7 of the top 10 jersey rankings are from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Would you have ever
they haven't
that?
worn one yet in the game.
I know.
They haven't even put them on. None of them have put them on in a practice. The 2 words would be cha-ching. Or is that even 2 words? That's a hyphenated word, isn't it? So, all good. Good to be with you, and that's not surprising because the optimism is everywhere. I figured we're going to cover many subjects. We got to talk Last Dance. We can talk some more golf like you guys were just talking while I was on hold. By the way, Drew Barrett gets the big assist there for finding me. I don't know what was happening with the phone, but he put the bat signal out. He got me on. Again, the guys behind the scenes always do a great job, so thumbs up, Drew.
Always.
Public recognition for you for doing that. No, I was not one of the media members in the parking lot at Berkeley Prep School in downtown Tampa that were taking pictures of Tom Brady out of the parking lot through other cars trying to hide and take photos. You've seen the photos now everywhere on ESPN, the NFL Network, and on the Internet. I was not down there, but needless to say, there is a lot of optimism, and people want to see him with one of those 12 jerseys on in Buccaneer colors right now.
Well, I love the fact that the dude, even though he's been kicked out of a park, trespassing in a neighbor's yard.
In his house. Came in his house.
Right.
Was in the hallway of his house.
Right. Next to Leftwich's house, right?
Correct.
Even though he's done that, the dude wants to. He wants to be a good teammate. He wants to get out there. He wants to learn the playbook. He wants to work out with teammates. I give him credit for that. I mean, the guy he's all in.
And the guys are with him. And this is not something, I don't know how much you've discussed it or how much you've talked about what's been written or said. This is not something, as we're learning more about it, that was just going on, yesterday and Monday. It has apparently been going on for over a week, maybe closer to 10 days at a couple of locations. Kind of like, hey, move around. Again, they're allowed to do this where they're allowed to be, and the school property was allowing them to be there and to go through the work. And one of the interesting things is that Brady apparently is showing them on kind of what they're going over, the actual route. And he is in like half speed showing them, here is the route, here's the route tree of what you're looking for. So it's getting that much hands-on. Gronkowski has been at a couple of these workouts, although he apparently was not at the ones Monday and Tuesday. Mike Evans, the Pro Bowl receiver, has been there. O.J. Howard, the tight end. So he's got to get used to these guys. Obviously, guys, he's got to get used to what they can and can't do. And the NFL has already said this is allowed. We're allowing this as long as you're practicing social distancing, you're outside, that kind of thing. The facilities aren't open, but you're allowed to get together and have some kind of workout if it's allowed by the local authorities and the community. So there you go.
Because this would be big OTA time, wouldn't it?
Correct. And bigger than just OTA, which is organized team activity, where everybody is there, they're practicing on the field 11 on 11. You can go have work with the receivers, with the center, Ryan Jensen, who's out there in those photos, and there's even that one photo of him showing him how I want the towel folded. You put some baby powder on it, and you don't have as much sweat on the towel. There's a photo of him showing him that. You can go do that at a facility whenever it's open with just the guys that you're working with, just the skill players, just that kind of stuff outside of an organized team activity Right now, that is forbidden. All the facilities are still closed and probably will be at least into the first week in June because they want it to be equitable. They want it to be fair for everybody. Can everybody open their facility to do this? And until they can, nobody should be allowed to have the advantage over those who can't. So, yes, the practice time, the mini camp that is probably coming, the training camp that will be coming, we'll wait for all that. Right now, we're looking through car side view mirrors and out of car windows to take photos at the Berkeley Prep downtown parking lot. I have a good friend of mine who's an alumni from down there, and he said now that the word is out, we'll be more popular than when we were playing football games in the stadium. There'll be more people down there trying to watch this happen if they get the opportunity to watch these guys work out.
Well, I hope that baby powder they were using was not the Johnson & Johnson with talc.
Let's hope not. Yes, but it just shows you the detail.
Yeah.
It shows you the detail with which this is how, among many reasons, but this is how attention to detail, preparation, practice that comes out of that New England, basically mindset and winning culture and tradition. This is how you win. The little things that you continue to stack on top of each other are difference makers and can ultimately be the difference maker on a key play or a key moment, and that's what he's stressing, as silly as it seems.
Today, a good day for college athletics, at least if you're thinking there's a chance that we're going to have seasons, because the council for the NCAA voted today to open back up campus facilities starting June 1st. What's the sense you're getting in the state of Florida about football, about coming back, and fans and stands? Is that really being addressed?
I don't think that we're going to get to the discussion about people being there anytime soon, because that is still a July and maybe even into an August question. But I think definitely they are making plans to have seasons, plural, especially in this state, even if there are no fans in the stands. And here again, we're sitting here talking on May the 20th as we've continued to talk. Remember, the discussion was 7 or 8 weeks ago, we're not going to do this at all. And now here we are 7 or 8 weeks later that we're going to allow things to begin to open up in June. You got to wait for June 1st and then June 15th to see where we are, and then July 1st to see where we are. But it's definitely trending towards that you're going to play some kind of season. I thought the SEC stuff was fascinating, that maybe one of the scenarios, maybe no out-of-conference games, maybe 9 conference games with no bye week. That's one of the things being talked about. And obviously for Memphis and the American Conference, you've got UCF and USF down here in the conference. They've got a bigger challenge because you're spread out in more different places than just the southeastern region. And the SEC is spread out. You guys know that and talk about that all the time too. But you got challenges on who can be open, what state, where. All of college football is talking about this and having to deal with it. I mean, in the Pac-12, if the California teams can't practice, that's 4 of them out of the 12 in the conference. How are you equitable and fair to them in June and July when others are allowed to practice? That's something the Pac-12 has to address too.
It really isn't equitable, but is it fair to say the other guys can't practice? That wouldn't be right to those athletes either. So I don't know what the right and wrong really is.
And maybe, and this has been theorized, maybe you say to the California schools right now in the summer, you can go somewhere like Arizona if you're able to travel, and it's a hassle. It's a lot of players. You can go to nearby Arizona, go to nearby Nevada, and go practice there for right now while you wait to see if you can play. Maybe that's a solution. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the expense would be enormous, and I think some pushback from a lot of people, and some of it may be very fairly, of why is our football team, let's say USC, why is our football team going to Tempe and working out at Arizona State at that cost because we know what it's like moving, all of us know what it's like moving a football team. It's like moving an army.
Very true. But the flip side of that coin that we all understand is this is not the only thing. It is not the most important thing, but it is an important thing. The lifeblood of so many of these athletic departments, including at the highest level in the Power 5, is playing the football games. And you're already starting to see programs go by the wayside, scholarships, dreams, all of it being extinguished because of it. And man, to shudder to even think that if you're not playing across the board in the Power Five and the revenue, that is going to be a big part of the discussion. It shouldn't be the only thing. It shouldn't be the most important thing, but it's a big part of it that you've got to play some part of the season financially to help the rest of the athletic department and the athletic programs to survive. So let's see how it evolves. Again, it's May the 20th. You guys know this.
Well, the Power Five need the revenue stream of games even without fans because they would get some money from TV. Their television money is quite hefty. If you're looking at the Group of Five, even the American Athletic Conference, which has a better television deal than the other guys, certainly not to the tune of $40 million a year, they need people in the stands for that to become the economic machine that you keep referring to because they don't have that $40 million deal. So at some point for them to be able to play and still incur the expenses that you're talking about with training camp and everything else, and now they're coming in the middle of June, putting them up as they always have, you're talking about a whole different ballgame here. You really do need, for a lot of these schools, to have fans in stands. I at least a percentage of those fans.
Well, just to give you an idea, now the Dolphins, this is the NFL and the pros. The Dolphins already announced this, that they're going to attempt to play, and they've reassured their season ticket holders with at least 25% capacity at Hard Rock Stadium, which is going to be somewhere around 25,000 fans, all socially distanced. That's the intent while we sit here in May. Could that even be loosened up to 33% of your capacity that can be there socially distanced? So what does that mean? That means if that is applied, if that standard is applied by the health officials, by Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida, that means USF and UCF could follow that same standard of 20,000, maybe 15, depending on your stadium capacity. 15, 20, 25,000 people could actually be there socially distanced, and you have some revenue. You don't have all the revenue, but you have some revenue. And again, it'll be different state by state, whether you're talking about Tennessee, whether you're talking, the American is spread out with Texas, with Tulsa, Oklahoma, with East Carolina and the state of North Carolina, and on to try, Tulane in New Orleans to try to figure out how many can you have there if it's allowed.
TJ, in Tampa, St. Pete, and around baseball, the uneasy feeling we have that I have of there won't be a deal. Do you sense that? Is that foreboding in the Rays market? Because with the short sprint, the Rays could be the type of team it could be the direct beneficiary of that. They don't have to play out that long slog. They can just go out there and do it in 80 some odd games.
Well, yeah, there is obviously back and forth. There's obviously distrust, like we've talked about, from the players and the Players Association. But at some point, the players have been paid in April already and were paid on May the 1st, is my understanding. I don't know if they got paid on May the 15th. So the players have already gotten money. The owners deserve the credit of good faith because they've paid the players. They've paid a lot of the employees. I have friends and acquaintances that work for the Rays, including the Rays broadcasters. They got money, at least here initially. So the belief was we're all on the same page that we're trying to play at least part of the season. And let's hope they continue to work towards that. If the owners in this case are going to maintain that the deal has to be reopened because if there are no fans, it's costing them money, and you've got owners that have already put it out there that previously we in this situation would lose less if we don't play at all, that's not good. So I'm hopeful that they can come together on something. Again, we've got some time, but you've got to get going with at least, guys, a 3 or 4 week spring training, probably at least 3 weeks, to have pitchers get arms back into shape and be ready to go to start the truncated schedule and having all these games that you got to pitch. You're running out of time. Go ahead.
I go back to what I heard. I don't think there's going to be that long of spring training. I think initially it was going to be 10 days. They extended it to 2 weeks. We'll see. It just depends on how quickly they can come to some sort of an agreement. I said earlier in this program, both sides have too much to lose. How could they not come to an agreement? How could they not get past this to at least salvage a season? You heard Rob Manfrey say on CNN a few days ago, if there was no games played this year, the owners would lose $4 billion. $4 billion. And the Oakland A's already missed their April rent to the Coliseum that they play in of $1.2 million. So even if they have baseball at home, they're not sure that they can play in their stadium.
Yep. You got all kinds of complications. One thing that I learned long ago, you guys know this, is don't always trust the owners when they tell you how much they're going to lose on anything, because a great many of them have been lying all along on how much they aren't losing. They aren't really losing. They're actually making – there's a lot of distrust. There's a lot of distrust, especially from the Players Association, long, deep-seated from being lied to about free agency and collusion and those kind of things, and the strike of 94, the most recent one, and the lockout attempt of 95 to use replacement players. So we'll see. But, again, it's worth noting the players have been paid at least through May the 1st, and they may have been paid on May 15th. I don't have that for sure, but I know they were paid through May the 1st. Well, so there's some good faith on the part of the owners to try to get this process rolling to start some games. We'll see.
And the players have to step up.
My question, seriously, I don't know if you know the answer to this. They've already been paid at least twice. If that's the case and there's no baseball, do they owe the owners that money back?
I would say yes. I mean, I don't know how you resolve that, especially guys that are in the last year of their deal, let's say, or on a one-year deal, other than a refund. How do you resolve it other than that? So that's got to be another part of these discussions.
Anybody on a long-term contract, you would just take that money out next year. But you're right. If it's a one-year deal or if it's the last year of a deal, do they owe you that money? How are they going to get it? Interesting. Interesting. I don't know. All right, last thing. Big story today, I think it was Shams from The Athletic, who said Orlando is where the NBA is going to go. Vegas out, Orlando, Disney World in. What are you hearing?
Yes. I don't know if it's going to be the only place. Maybe they come back to having it in two locations, Western teams in the West and Eastern teams in the East in Orlando. That is and you've been there, Wolo, and I've been over there some too, for the AAU parts, right. and they have multiple facilities there at the Wide World of Sports, right off the Disney Magic Kingdom property. So it seems logical. Florida's opened up to be able to come and do this. It's still not clear. Are you going to try to resume the regular season and do this with all the teams and make up the approximate 300 games that have to be played for the last basically month of the season here, the last 17, 18 games of all the NBA teams? That's not clear, but yes, every indication is they're ready to go at the Wide World of Sports. Again, Vince McMahon's professional wrestling has been going on at his facility without fans since back now about 6-7 weeks ago at their Performance Center in Orlando. The UFC just held the fights in Jacksonville with no fans there.
Florida's
it's going to be the same thing. No fans that are in and around the NBA games. It's going to be a huge task to bring everybody there to finish the regular season. I would love to hear how much sentiment is there for that versus just go with the 16 teams that have qualified, because it's pretty clean in both the East and the West. The 8th team is distanced from the 9th team right now. It's not like it's a half game or tied and you got to use a tiebreaker. Just go with the 16. They didn't ask me, but it seems simpler just to do that because you've already gone into the off season for 2 months right now for the NBA. If your argument is the off season, and ending the regular season. So we'll see. But yeah, Orlando is definitely in play there, and it seems to make a lot of sense. We'll see what happens.
In that athletic story, it seems to me they are leaning now more toward just going with 16. That is not a done deal, but it seems that is, because of time being the essence, that is the direction that they're leaning, which would be great for Memphis because they get in as the A seed. But, boy, there's people in New Orleans and Portland that could make an argument. San Antonio, because it's not like there's 4 games left either. There's 15 games left, and the Grizzlies lead is only 3.5, right? Isn't that amazing? I can't remember that.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's clean in the East too. The 8 is in front of the 9 by at least a game or two.
Yeah.
So, you would come back and you would have to play all of the remaining regular season games, because then you get into all the nuances of how many head-to-head matchups for these teams that are vying for the final 7th seed or 8th seed or against each other against the team that's currently 9 or 10 if you don't play all of them. You'd have to play all of them, and it's literally over 300 games. And it would take you probably anywhere from 2.5 to 4 weeks to play those 300 games, even playing nonstop in the same facility in the same day. It would certainly take you at least, because you got to give guys days off. So you'd have to take at least probably 3 weeks to play that before you play the postseason. Let's see what they come up with.
You got 10 seconds because we're really late. Who wins, Tiger and Peyton, or Phil and your boy, Tom Brady?
You can't go against Tiger kind of in his home area there at Medalist. I'll go Tiger and Peyton. It'll be a lot of fun to watch that.
And we're
coming up on Sunday. It'll be a lot of fun to see the banter back and forth. Let's hope we get some of that. It'll be a lot of fun. You boys be well.
I hope
Keep doing what you're doing.
I really hope, TJ. I don't see a tweet now from Tom Brady talking about the Tampa Bay Buck sideline guy dissing me.
I'm not going against Tiger Woods. You're telling me which team. I'm not going against Tiger.
I got you.
Not good to go against Tiger in any of these circumstances.
I agree 100%. Thank you,
Tom
TJ.
should have picked a better partner.
Oh,
all right, be well, boys.
Bye-bye. That is our friend TJ Reeves. This hour of the show presented by Homer. Homer Skelton Hyundai in Olive Branch. Also Genesis of Olive Branch. Same building. Both products unbelievable. I mean that seriously. If you read about the technology that Hyundais and Genesis cars have, you will just come away impressed. You can't help but be impressed. I'm always impressed by the way they come up with new ideas. And this is a crew at Homer Skelton Hyundai Genesis of Olive Branch. Same building again. Same owner. And basically, same people who've been there forever. They know what they're doing, and that's why people keep coming back. And the incentives. How about 0% financing for 84 months? You don't pay interest for 7 years. And to make it even more enticing, you don't have to make a payment, your first one, on select models for 120 days if you choose not to. So there's another 4 months. If you don't have the money now, but you know this pandemic is going to be over, you're going to have it in 4 months, start paying then. And the Genesis car, oh my gosh, what a luxury car. This technology, and these cars are so well built, you get a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty on every car. It's terrific, and so are the people. So go find out for yourself. Go take a test drive. You can thank me later because you're going to love Homer Skelton Hyundai and Genesis of Olive Branch. Stick around because our professor, that would be Rick Horrow from Harvard and from the NBC, the NBC family of stations, he is next.
Take Sports 56 with you on your phone or tablet. Download our official Sports 56 app today.
Tee it up at Edwin Watts Golf Shops with their Memorial Day sale happening May 22nd through the 25th. All Nike golf shoes are 25% off. Score an epic deal on Callaway's Epic Flash Driver, now only $349. Save big with the G400 driver, now only $249. Remember, the more you buy, the more you save, and receive up to 25% off all apparel. Edwin Watts Golf Shops Memorial Day sale happening May 22nd and May 25th. Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 90-day 100% satisfaction guarantee, serving golfers since 1968.
Blood and plasma donations are more important than ever. People all around the world still depend on the medicine your plasma helps make. That's why Interstate Blood Bank and Plasma Biological Services are open and will remain open for our donors. The United States government has declared blood and plasma donation as a critical infrastructure industry. That means healthy donors are allowed to travel to and from donation centers regardless of any stay-at-home mandates in your area. We need you to keep donating so that we can continue to manufacture these life-saving medicines. We understand that you may be concerned about COVID-19. The health and safety of our donors and our employees remain a top priority. To limit the spread of the virus, we're taking additional measures to ensure our centers are safe and clean. Donating now is more important than ever, but please do not come to the center to donate if you are not feeling well or have a sore throat, fever, cough, or shortness of breath. We are doing our part so that you can do yours. Come donate today at one of our IBBI or PBS locations across the Memphis area.
Got something you want to get off your chest?
You better have a backup plan.
Want to join the conversation?
Someone needs to tell him he has to grow up.
Join us on the First Bank phone lines at 360-8255 or the First Bank text line at 67129. Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
Well, we've already talked about the council today. Did I mention earlier other good things? The American Athletic Conference has formed a COVID-19 medical task force to establish health and safety protocols for this return. It is chaired by a doctor named Greg Stewart. He is, I guess, the team medical doctor for the Tulane Green Wave. So this is Tulane Med School. That's pretty good. Memphis has a representative. We'll try to get him on next week. In the meantime, we go to talk to our professor. That would be Rick Horrow. And Rick, let's start with this baseball deal. We've been discussing this, and it's so low-key. Nobody's saying anything. I'm starting to get a little bit worried. Brett, I think, he's gone from elation, thinking it was maybe going to happen, to maybe not now. This silence, does it scare you?
No, silence always works when deals are about to be made. When I'm worried when either side uses 12th grade adjectives to talk about the other side. And obviously, if you ask me that question same time next week, I'll be a little bit concerned because we're running out of time a little bit. But the league is operating as if it's going to be approved logistically, and we do have 6 weeks to try to figure that out. That is not an eternity, but it's not tomorrow. So it's a hard deal to do when you think that the players are used to getting multi-millions and the owners are used to taking risks based on a reasonable return. The risk here is you open the stadium up, you start the season, coronavirus returns. When do you have fans? Your television money's great, but it's not the revenue that you would have counted on. And the real issue is, when do you get equal participation? It's not just one being for you, one being for me. You have to consider the opening of the stadium as an expense. You have to consider marketing expenses, like anybody who runs businesses do. And so the percentage of the revenues is 50-50, we understand. But what is the revenue and what do you take off the top?
Rick, can you imagine? I can't. If we had to, if we got started back, and let's say we're rolling along with baseball around the 1st of September, and the NBA's back, and they're about to complete their season. Hockey's back. They're about to crown a Stanley Cup winner. College football's trying to get going. The NFL's trying to get going, and we had to have another shutdown. That's carnage I don't think we can imagine, isn't it?
Well, and that's what a lot of people are not predicting. That's dire, but factoring in. And so, the colleges are now, for the first time, and I wrote about that this week, the rhetoric seems to be shifting to, if you don't have kids on campus, you never have a shot at having football, to, well, maybe we can figure out both. And obviously the reason is 80% of the revenue for any sports comes from football. And if there's a way to protect the players, then I think the kind of academic perspective doesn't go by the wayside, but if you bring in more money, you have a better chance of doing better academically. I mean, that's a hard thing to say, but it's all the quote unquote minor sports and obviously Title IX, and you didn't get basketball revenue, so what are you going to do? So I guess the point is that we're now in a position where, for the first time over the last 10 weeks, every league and every sport has a comprehensive comeback plan, and all of them have contingencies about what happens if there's a recurrence, and nobody wants to talk about it.
Well, I've said this a little earlier. I think in every plan there has to be a plan for not if, but when. If we continue to have the cases that we're having, and some areas haven't even spiked, like they say Memphis is spiked now because we flattened the curve, is probably July. You bring people back, and social distancing isn't quite the same, and people get tired of wearing the masks or don't do it. The inevitability is you're going to have some cases, and I think it'll happen in every league if they do. They all have to have plans for as soon as there is a guy that gets it, they've got to be quarantined. They've got to start testing everybody on the team to make sure they don't have it. So tests are going to be critical here, but there has to be a plan not for if, but for when there is a positive case.
It's a brilliant comment, by the way. And look what Mark Emmert said. I've been on with him a couple of times now and been on a town hall. And his comment is not if, but when. He says, look, you have 500,000 student athletes. And if they're all playing, and it's 17,000 teams, you're not going to have a scenario where nobody's going to have the virus. That's not possible. So it's not a question of do you shut it down, but how do you take them out of the game? How do you trace them? How do you immediately make sure that this doesn't get widespread? Not a question of we're not going to play until we have no cases, because fortunately, look at the reality. It may be 2 or 3 years before that happens, in all seriousness. And this whole idea of safer stadiums and this Bio-Risk Advisory Council and all of the issues of how to make a stadium safer are all fine. 72% of the people, as we know, were surveyed 3 weeks ago and said we're not going until there's a vaccine. Well, maybe or maybe not, but this is an entirely different issue now. This is how you open up without fans, with TV, and with players.
Rick, the NHL has talked about now 15 different sites for their restart, Nashville being one of them. Florida is always in the mix for everything, as Florida is your state where you're talking to us right now from. It is basically wide open for business. The NHL, with your friendship with Gary Bettman, do they have a Stanley Cup champion crown this year?
Yeah, I think they do. And it's going to be hard to do.
Good.
And we're going to have to take 8 steps up and 7 back. But I think we're going to have one. And I don't think we have player negotiations issues because, we're going to start the season. The real key also is how do you get it all wrapped up this year so it doesn't impact the revenues for next season, because there's a very difficult and very interesting balance between the owners and the players relative to gross revenues for each season. So, again, one of the issues there is, how do you shut it off? How do you say this is not a great season, but we're going to take what we got, and then we're going to start the revenue clock again next year? You start the next season in October. I mean, we're already ready for 2021. But I do think that the NHL is going to try as hard as it can to get it done.
Will they do that in one location like the NBA? Are they going to do this at home arenas? Will they have people? How's this going to play out?
I don't know about people. Don't know right now if that's a feasible opportunity. I think it's going to be multiple locations. I think we're going to get through as many games as we can, and then we're going to start the playoffs a lot quicker. I don't think it's going to be a normal season. But then, look, the NHL, I know for a fact, has multiple plans in front of them right now. And as I said a week ago, 2 weeks from now, we're going to have final thoughts in basketball, hockey, and every time. And we're a week ahead of that schedule. I think next week when we talk, we're going to have a lot of answers.
We got a text, and this is for you on the First Bank text line. It says, and it goes back like we had the zoo open up now. We can have half capacity of the zoo. That's 5,000 people.
Does that mean the Tigers got to keep 6 feet apart, or does that mean the people have to?
Just the humans, I think.
Although
Tigers did get it. I've seen that.
Yeah, I saw that. And how are you going to tell a tiger to social distance?
Yeah.
You going to tell him? Are you going to tell him?
I'm going to ask very nicely. I'm going to have you put a mask on him. That's what I'm
look, I'll do a few things in life. That's not one.
This question is, how do you socially distance ingress and egress for a football game? Like all these teams have walks to begin with, and everybody tailgates. How do you have social distance for bathrooms and concessions? Please have Rick explain.
Well, I'm not an architect, but the way they're going to do this and the way the planning is being done with this plan that the Hard Rock Stadium kind of came up with, and a lot of others all over pro football, then college starts it, is a lot of sequencing. So, the teams certainly are not going to take the field at the same time. And if you can go to the bathroom, you got to stay 6 feet apart. It's difficult, especially at halftime. So they're going to regulate how you do it and when you get up and all of that. How? Well, we've got to decide that. I don't have an answer to that. I'm not the guy that's creating the plan, other than seeing that the Dolphin plan and others that are adopting the idea is starting as small as 50,000 people in a stadium early. Then you're going to work out the kinks. Then you're going to let in the next set and the next set and the next set. Now, I know, what's the answer to that? Well, what about season tickets? Who decides which one of the 3 or 4 in a row get the seat versus not? Maybe there's a lottery where you get one, and then the week after somebody else gets one, and there is a uniform ticket refund policy. We've seen that. The NFL has said all the teams are going to respond to one policy. There's not going to be one team that's going to do better or worse than another. I think that's a great move because nobody's going to be happy, to be honest about it, but it's better than nothing.
It's going to be a nightmare, I think. All right, last thing for our professor from Harvard, Rick Horto, also with the NBC family of stations. You see that the Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady match is going to feature a hole, the 5th, where they will only get to use one club of their choice. First of all, I love it. I think it's a cute little wrinkle. Secondly, I know which club I would use. I'm just curious what you two guys would use.
Wow, interesting. All right, you go first.
All right, I would use a 5-iron because I can open up a 5-iron and use that for short pitch shots. I can knock down or I can drive it and hit it a decent amount of distance. And I think it would be much easier than any kind of elevated club to putt with. And you couldn't hit short shots with a 3-iron or a 2-iron, so I'd go with a 5-iron.
Go ahead.
Give me a 7-iron.
All right, I'm going to do a hybrid. Because you can do a whole lot of stuff with it off the green and all that.
Sure can. You can
90 yards.
With one easy.
Well, listen, 90 yards over a bunker. I chose the wrong club. Okay, so you don't hit it 90 yards where a bunker's between you. I don't remember the layout of that hole, but if you can roll it as opposed to elevate it, maybe that's the right hole to look at a number of different clubs.
John Vandevelde would have won a British Open if he had only used one of the 3 clubs we just mentioned.
That is true. It
takes 6 shots, not 7.
And
right?
Yeah, that's right. and I do have to remind myself here. I've not seen the 5th hole. I just picked that thinking that's just the most easy club to use for all the different shots that you would have to hit. But you're right. I got to see what the 5th hole looks like before I definitively give you my club.
Well, here's the deal. I'm still angling to get out there, and I've got a lot of opportunities, very few commitments right now, but I think I'm going to be able to get out there. No matter what, we're all going to watch it. So next week, let's talk about who did the right thing on the 5th hole and who didn't.
You got it. That's
right.
a date.
You got it, Rick.
Thank you, Rick.
Deal.
We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Later. Bye.
You got it.
That is our professor, Rick Horto from MSNBC, all the NBC stations, and from Harvard. This portion of the show brought to you by the commissary. That's the Germantown commissary. That's the Collierville commissary. That is good food. And that restaurant, those restaurants are open. Oh, yeah, both places. You can still get served curbside in Germantown, which is a great way to go. Very sanitary, very, very clean. All the menu, they'll bring to the curb, but you can go in if you'd like to. Same thing holds for Collierville. You can go through the drive-thru or you can pick up and take out. They are still going to serve you both ways. They'd love to have you come inside. The waiters, I know, and the waitresses would love to have people. So, look, you can still get your barbecue, and now you can get it either taking it in or taking it out. That's simple. The commissaries, both Germantown and Collierville, are wide open for business. We'll take a quick time out. We're talking about what are we going to do with football stadiums if we have people in. According to my friend, Brett Norsworthy, social distancing might not be so hard. That's next.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56, 96.1, and 87.7.
Attention doctors, nurses, law enforcement, firefighters, and EMT personnel. Infinity of Memphis wants to show their gratitude for what you've done and for what you do for our community. Right now, you can get your personal vehicle a mobile super synthetic or Mobile One oil and filter change for half price. That's only $32.50 or $49.99 respectively. Infinity of Memphis will also wash your car for free. Visit infinityofmemphis.com now to schedule your service. ID is required.
The landscape is so beautiful at Town Village Audubon Park. Nestled in the heart of East Memphis, located corner of Park and Cherry, is a beautiful residential neighborhood. Looking for a great place to retire, but you still have a very active lifestyle? Then visit Town Village. Only requirements that you're 55 plus. Prices per month starting at $24.50. The Gourmet Chef welcomes you to visit our restaurant and bistro. Package includes 3 complimentary meals per day, maid service, free local transportation, monthly coffee club, themed dinner parties, lots of fun. Visit us and call Daniel or Bo at Town Village Audubon Park at 901-374-7342. There's no place like home. Town Village Audubon Park.
I'm here with the great Pat Donahue from the Rendezvous Restaurant Shipping Department.
Thanks, Brett. We've been shipping our ribs all over the country now for decades from our USDA-inspected shipping kitchen in the Pinch District. We hand-cook our ribs in pits that Mr. Charlie built over charcoal, just like they do at the restaurant.
So what comes in a rib box?
We could do pork shoulder, we could do ribs, our sauce, seasoning, baked beans, coleslaw. We'll even throw in Pancho's cheese dip with our nacho boxes. We also put a bag of Rendezvous seasoned popcorn, heating instructions, some chef hats, some wet naps, and some other helpful tips from our kitchen. We ship our ribs overnight, exclusively FedEx. And we put them in nice packaging. We don't ever want to use styrofoam, so we use corrugated cardboard, actually 2 boxes that fit nice together, so the ribs get to you, your loved ones, or your clients in a safe, wholesome manner. Rendezvous ribs are perfect for out-of-town clients, customers, loved ones. We also ship ribs for any occasion.
Where do we order these great ribs?
You can go to www.hogsfly.com or give us a call at 1-888-464-7359.
Charlie Burgos' Rendezvous Restaurant in the alley since 1948.
Now, more of Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brad Norsworthy.
Winding our way through hour number 2 on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon. Talked a little bit about the fact that today the big news, the positive news, is that the NCAA Council voted that they're going to open things back up starting June 1st. Football teams, basketball teams, women's basketball teams can all report on campus and start working out for at least a month. All the other sports they'll make decisions about at a little later time. But that obviously is good news. Now, is that the opening of the floodgates for games to be played? Maybe. Is that going to mean that we're going to have fans in the stands? Who in the heck knows? But if we do, it's probably not going to be full capacity, and there's going to be social distancing involved. But, Brett, you're saying to me, if you've looked at all these numbers, social distancing at a lot of these games might not be so hard.
It's amazing what this is according to the NCAA. So if you've got a problem with these numbers, take it up with the NCAA, because this is what, at their official site, they are producing for attendance for last year. But for instance, the other day we heard the news from San Jose State that they were going to have no crowds. Well, they've had no crowds anyway. They averaged 15,396 last year. And I don't know what size stadium that is, but I would say that's at least half empty. So there's your, half full would be your social distancing.
Brett,
South Alabama last year averaged 16,322.
Brett, can I ask you this? When they're taking into account these numbers, and it's their numbers, But do they give you the formula? Are these tickets that were sold, or are they really people in the stands? Does it count the band? Does it count the media? I'm curious.
It shows games, total number, and the average.
Okay.
Like, for instance, it has for the University of Memphis, it has 7 games, 271,710 for an average of 38,816. By the way, that led the nation in biggest increase from one year to the second biggest increase from one year to the next. 8,600 or so improvement. Only Kansas with Les Miles had a bigger improvement. The Memphis improvement was over Minnesota. But back to some of these averages, Northern Illinois that plays pretty decent football.
Yeah, sure does.
They averaged 8,500 people last year.
Wow.
8,500.
Man.
Ohio U, 16,000. Old Dominion, 18,000. Charlotte averaged, University of Charlotte, and that's one that has tried to make that meteoric rise up to FBS playing football. Their numbers, they say they averaged 12,000. Central Michigan, 13,000. Ball State, 9,900.
Yeah.
Washington State, 28,000.
Is that the lowest of the Power Fives? What is Vandy?
Vandy that's a good question. Vandy was 26,000.
So that's even less than Washington State.
What's a school like South Alabama going to be at? Because I know when we were down there had to been
16.
16,000, that's what they average?
That's what they reported the average.
Then 10,000 of those every game is opposing fans, because that's the way it looked like when we were down there.
That could very well be. At least for that game it was.
And I think they opened this year with Southern Miss, and I really thought Steve Campbell would do a better job there. Tulane, smaller stadium, but 20,000. Tulsa, 18,000. UConn, 18,000.
That's amazing that UConn got 18,000. That's a loyal fan base, because that was a bad product.
Again, Buffalo, 16,000. University of Buffalo. UMass, 9,000. UMass is not going to have any trouble social distancing. There's nobody already there.
And didn't they play some of those games at Gillette Stadium? I think they did, didn't they?
I think so, Dave. Yeah. I think so. App State, that's had really good ball teams.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know the capacity of their stadium either now, so I don't know what the percentage of capacity is on this, but 23,000. Akron, 17,000.
I would say at App State, 23,000, you would have a hard time with social distancing. I bet you their stadium, look this up if you can, App State stadium capacity for
30,000.
I was just going to say it's 30,000.
And that's very good for a percentage of capacity. So if they had to go to a 50% social distancing,
it would be
they're
down
cutting
to
out about 8,000 people.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
had to go down to about 15. SMU averaged 23,000. So we've got a lot of places that attendance is already down. It's listening here. The Ole Miss averaged 48,000 last year. Well, that makes me know that they were counting every ticket sold and band and everybody possible, because it just wasn't that across the
what is total capacity?
The 7 home games.
If you count skyboxes and everything, 64. So now you could, if you're at 50%. And I'll be honest with you, Brett, I don't know how you could really social distance at 50%. I really don't.
I don't either. Not at the 6 foot parameter. I don't either, Dave. So it's just so many things. Dave, for us to finish a 2020 year in sports, almost it has to go perfect. And when does it do that?
Never.
Almost never. I mean, I say one little thing. Heck with one little thing. One big thing. You let an outbreak of football players working out at Ohio State on the 25th of June. And by outbreak, 20% of the team, so 20 players, we shut it down the next day.
Well, they shut themselves down, and then they start testing like crazy. I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah, but I hate to say this, but you know what really shuts something like this down? would be 20 or 25 who get COVID, and then one passes away from it.
Well, that's a two-pronged thing. That'd be the shutdown, and then here comes the lawsuits.
Well, yeah, but that's the game changer that I mentioned when I said when an athlete gets it and Gobert got it 2 hours later, that's when the world changes. Well, that's how the comeback closes, is if you've got a cluster from a team and then one passes.
What if an older coach got it?
Then we'll rethink this.
What if Mike D'Antoni got it with the Rockets?
I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. Like my question that I had with David Waters, and you'll be able to hear that at 5:30 at the bottom of this next hour. What about teachers? We talk about going back to school on campus.
Exactly.
What about professors that are 60, 70 years of age? What about them?
Mathematics department chairman. Yeah.
I wish I had your answers, but your attendance figures are very interesting indeed. Thank you, Brett. We appreciate it. That's 2 hours in the books. When we come back, Chris Landry knows all about football and comebacks, NFL or college. He is next.
Hi, I'm Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. Do you have any idea why I never speak the way I am right now? It's because if you're honest, sincere, and knowledgeable, you do not need fast-talking, high-energy, gimmick-promising advertising to get a customer's attention. Speaking of that, how do you think companies can offer huge rebates and giveaways when you use their services or buy their products? By overcharging you in the first place, that's how. Fiveash Roofing doesn't operate that way. It's misleading and dishonest. When I provide a customer with the best products and the best service possible and do it at a fair price, why would I need gimmicks to sell it? Best products, best warranties, and best service possible. That's all we offer. Well, that and financing. Fiveash Roofing, proud partner of the Memphis Tigers and the official roofer of the Memphis Tigers home team. Fiveash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Fiveash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
And now a game of Commercial Chicken, brought to you by Progressive, where we see how long Flo can go without talking about insurance. Ready? Go.
Hi. Guess we should talk about something. How's the vermicelli game in your town? Got any good Vietnamese restaurants? Vermicelli? Oh, it's a noodle. Very good. Drivers who switch to Progressive can save big.
Okay, you win. We can't help but save customers money. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Tee it up at Edwin Watts Golf Shops with their Memorial Day sale happening May 22nd through the 25th. All Nike golf shoes are 25% off. Score an epic deal on Callaway's Epic Flash Driver, now only $349. Save big with the G400 driver, now only $249. Remember, the more you buy, the more you save, and receive up to 25% off all apparel. Edwin Watts Golf Shops Memorial Day sale happening May 22nd and May 25th. Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 90-day 100% satisfaction guarantee, serving golfers since 1968.
You already know you can listen to Sports 56, 96.1 and 87.7 anywhere with the Sports 56 app or at sports56whbq.com. But you can also watch live video of all of our shows on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Periscope. Don't miss out on anything. Stay in touch with Sports 56, 96.1 and 87.7 on social media. We are Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, WIVG-FM Tunica Memphis, and WPG-FLP Memphis, Flynn Broadcasting Stations. Welcome back to Sportstime on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sportstime is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
Chris Landry from Landry Football will join us next and talk the restart. He's been covering that feverishly, and also some NFL camp news. Chris Landry, LandryFootball.com, one of the sites you must have saved. This hour brought to you every day by DeSoto Auto Sales, down on Goodman Road, 5704 Goodman Road, 662-890-7184. Come on down to DeSoto County for that town and country experience. at DeSoto Auto Sales. 662-890-7184, online at DeSotoAutoSales.com. They know we're living in a world today that time really matters, and they want you to have the ultimate car experience. You walk in, meet with your sales rep, find the car or cars that you want to test drive, get credit approved, paperwork completed, and you're gone in less than an hour. And time to do it over your lunch hour or immediately after work, like about right now. No shortcuts taken at DeSoto Auto Sales. Kind, courteous employees, laid-back atmosphere, no high-pressure sales. All the cars test-driven, all the cars checked out bumper to bumper, unlimited inventory, every make, every model. And if they don't have it on the lot, they'll go out and find it for you at DeSoto Auto Sales, down on Goodman Road in DeSoto County, 662-890-7184. Come on down to DeSoto County for that town and country experience at DeSoto Auto Sales.
Program note, just so you know, at 3:30 tomorrow, we will have the terrific news anchor from Fox 13, Daryl Green, will join us. He'll be in our 3:30 slot on the Pandemic tomorrow. So I am
some golf talk in with Daryl. He loves to play.
Oh, he does. He's a good player. I've played with him a couple times. He played in the Pro-Am. Well, it was the last Pro-Am, right? Because with the WGC, we don't have Pro-Ams. So he played
Didn't Daryl
didn't
he play football at Arkansas State?
I think he was a kicker at Arkansas State.
I think so.
Yeah.
He was playing football. Kickers count, Dave.
I know. I'm not putting down kickers. But
You're the big third of the game, the special teams guy.
Exactly. And I'm the guy that says if you got a good kicker, you give him a scholarship.
You do, Dave, and I tell you, anytime post-game for Ole Miss games, especially after a big kick, I love to give snapper credit, holder credit, and the kicker credit because it all goes hand in hand. It's got to be a symphony.
There is no question about it. So we do bring in Chris Landry. And Chris, let's start with the news today of the council, the NCAA council saying, okay, June 1st, we're open back up for football, for you guys to come work out, basketball, women's basketball as well. What does that tell you about our chances for a true college football season, maybe beginning on time? Give me your sense.
Well, I think it's kind of the go-ahead with some of the restrictions that the NCAA has put on it to kind of open the door for those to, go forward. And then obviously it's going to be up, because the NCAA has no jurisdiction, it's going to be up to each individual state to kind of conform within the safety guidelines to get back. Look, I think everyone is committed to try to make this work because of the importance, the financial importance and relevance to having a season. Everyone's going to do it. I think for me, what's always been the most interest is, I think we're gonna attempt to get it on time and get it started. I want to see how everybody handles it, and can we get through the season? And I think it's going to look different. It's going to feel different. It's going to sound different. I don't know if we're going to have canceled games because there's an outbreak. If there's a bit of an outbreak, how do we deal with the quarantine? In college football, it's going to be about, who's going to administer it. I mean, we're going to have tests. How often we're going to have tests? The player test positive on Friday, let's say, for example, or are they going to be out for 14 days? Who's going to decide that? I mean, is it going to be up to the school? I have a better feel for what the NFL is going to do because it's much more organized. College football, as you guys know, is hodgepodge. Everybody thinks the NCAA runs it, this and that. You guys know that the NCAA doesn't have any jurisdiction over any of this. So is it going to be conference organized?
Yes.
They're going to try to work together, and then how's that going to look? I mean,
I'll answer that for you. It'll be conference organized because I don't think that the SEC really cares what happens in the Pac-12. And I don't think Greg Sankey cares what's going on with Bill Bowlesby at the Big 12 because they care about themselves and they're going to take care of themselves. And if their grouping can play right away, they'll do it. If a couple of their schools are saying, wait a second, let's back up. Let's delay the season, and because we're delaying the season, let's just play conference games. We'll play 9 games. I could see that happening very easily. There is no commissioner. There's no NCAA head that controls this. Each commissioner of each conference is in control of their football product, and that's the truth.
But I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about playing. What I'm talking about is how are they going to deal with the circumstances that are inevitable. That players are going to. There's going to be players that are going to test positive. So who's going to oversee that? Is what I'm saying. Each school is going to have to sit there, I guess, and say, all right, we're getting ready to play so-and-so, and 6 guys test positive. Are they out for 14 days? How do we deal with that? Is that going to be who's going to administer that? You see, in the NFL, they're going to have a regulation and a rule, but because we don't have an organized system in college football, it's going to be in a conference organized situation, something that they're going to have to agree to, that each school's going to oversee, not whether they play or not, but I'm talking about the individual players, whether said player tests positive, 4 guys are out. Well, if they're out and it's Friday, that means they're probably out for tomorrow's game and next week's game if it's a 14-day incubation period. So my point is how do you really control that? How do you really organize it? How do you quarantine them? I mean, all those things that I don't really have the answer. And, people that I talk with in college athletics, everyone says, well, those are the things we're trying to work with health professionals. Because nobody knows what the heck to do with this. I mean, none of us that have been in athletics and administration and I don't, it's not like anybody says, well, yeah, last time we had a pandemic, this is how we handle it. We've never had it. We don't know what this is all about.
The last time we had a pandemic, the helmet, you could fold it up and put it in your pocket.
That's right.
100 years ago.
To Chris's point, the American Athletic Conference today organized a COVID-19 medical task force to establish health and safety protocols for a return to athletics, and the chair of this committee is in your neck of the woods. It's Tulane's medical director, Greg Stewart.
It's impressive.
Oh yeah, well it makes sense. He's a really he's a well-known guy. Now I've heard that obviously they're going to enforce a lot. I mean, here's common sense things. In the dining halls, you're going to try to create social distancing. The snacks that they give them will probably be, separately packaged. I'm told, they're probably going to ask coaches to wear masks and gloves in meetings. They're probably going to have, in position meetings, try to have social distancing. They'll probably have, extra disinfecting of, training tables when a player gets done. And, they'll probably take extra special calls on that. But we're talking college situations, and I'm thinking in terms of college campuses. We're going to have to, you can do all those things, and if kids go to the local bar, then they're going to be up in each other's face, and it's going to spread. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a greater chance of those things, being an outbreak. So to me, it's about not whether we're going to play. Everybody wants to play. Everybody has plans to do it. It's about I'm more interested, are we going to get through a season? And are we going to have games canceled? Or we're going to have one team with a 9-1 record and another team with a 5-2 record, and we're trying to compare? Or is everybody going to get through all of their games? I mean, those are the type of things that I just don't have a feel for at this point, because I have no idea how we're going to deal with a potential outbreak. I find it interesting that some schools have come out. I think Notre Dame, South Carolina, Purdue, a few of them have said, hey, you know what, we're going to have kids on campus in the fall, but when we break for Thanksgiving, we're not coming back on campus. The rest of the semester is going to be done online. So they're preparing for the second wave that is expected to happen when flu season begins, or at some point in November. So going to be interesting to see how every camp with it. And I think how you deal with it on campus, those same guidelines, health-wise, are going to be things that they're going to be trying to do with the athletes to try to make sure that they're safe and, prevent as much of the spread of this as possible.
Chris, what do you do? And you've been a college coach. You've been around youngsters all your life. What do you do when a young man comes to you and says, "Coach, I'm scared. I don't want to. I don't want to report. I don't want to play. I'm scared. I'm getting this because he may have saw it, afflict his family, and just, Coach, I'm scared. I'm not going to play."
Right, and maybe fearful because everybody's got different family situations. They're raised by a grandmother, they're around them, and they don't, they're at more of a risk of, they're not going to be able to see him or her, or if they do, they're putting that elderly person at risk because everybody says, they're young, they're going to get over it. Well, they're fearful of this. I think you got to have conversations with them, and you got to respect their feelings. I'll take it another way. I'll go the different direction. You think there's some lawyers out there that are more than ready to say, hey, you know what? And you can sign all the waivers you want out there. Something happens and somebody's sick.
Ready to pounce.
You were negligent and you didn't do enough. I mean, that some of that's going to be, under the surface. Now, I hope it doesn't happen because we definitely live in a litigious society, but I think we're going to have to deal with all that. I think we're going to have to deal with players maybe being concerned, scared, and then I think we're going to have to deal with it's a lot easier to deal with working on the college side and the pro side. It's a lot easier to deal on the pro side. It's a smaller group. It is not dealing on a campus, and you've got a players association and a management council, meaning the owners. In college, you're dealing. What's the biggest thing that's happening right now prior to this pandemic? It's the name, image, and likeness. Are they really more student athletes, or they're really more employees? Well, what are we really saying in society? What is every president saying? We got to have college football because if we don't make money, our university's in trouble, our athletic department's in trouble. So what screams out these kids are more employees than we need you to play? And if that's the case and somebody gets sick, you just can see all sorts of problems that could come about it. Yet we got to try. We got to do it. I think that not having it and the losing of the money associated with it. Look, it's already every day I'm reading about a baseball program being dropped in the MAC, the track program being dropped in the MAC or somewhere. We're going to have that more and more if we lose a portion of the season or certainly all of the season. Financial ramifications in college would be devastating if we lost the season. So that's why I don't think we're going to lose it. I think come by hook or by crook, we're going to figure out some way to get it done, and they're going to do everything they can to make it as safe as possible, and we're going to see where it takes us.
Does that include fans in the stands? Like, how could you, seriously, Chris, tell me how you could safely, socially distance at Tiger Stadium and take into account that means you're tailgating at Tiger Stadium?
No, I'm not even addressing the fans. I'm just thinking in terms of just the athletes.
Yeah.
I would not want to be the person that has to figure out how you're going to deal with it. A, how many fans want to go? I mean, there are going to be a lot of people that say, I'm not going, I'm not taking the chances, I'm just going to watch it on TV, all the games on TV. A lot of them are going to want to go. And a lot of them don't care. They just, like you say, they want to have their tailgating and all that. So what do you do? I mean, what do the health professionals say? What's a safe amount of people? All right, so you're going to allow 25,000? I mean, that seems to be what people say, 25,000 in a 100,000-seat stadium. Well, all right, so how do you spread them out? How do you organize that? Who do you tell can't come? Who do you tell that does come? How do you deal with the finances? I mean, all those things I just don't know how do you deal with it. And I'm going to tell you what's maybe even worse is dealing with it on a campus, period. I've got a couple of neighbors that are professors. I've asked them, I said, so what do you guys do at LSU? I mean, they're expecting to be on campus. And by the way, every president said, we fully anticipate having on campus. Well, of course they do. They want all the kids to send their deposits, because if you don't, if you show some doubt, well, then they may not show up. That's going to kill a university environment. I'm told at LSU that they're only given a 15% discount if it's online classes. So what is that really, and there's some classes that, labs that you have to have in person. So how do you deal with that on campus as a whole? Because if you think about it, 500 athletes is nothing compared to 30,000, 40,000 students. But yet those 500 are going to intermingle with the 35, 40. So how do you deal with it? Now you're dealing with fans that come in on a weekend. How do you control that? That's bringing in a whole different group of people. How do you segment it? Do you test them? Do they have to go through a test of whether they have fever or not? Good Lord, I wouldn't even know where to begin to deal with that on a fan standpoint. That's a headache that, look, it's money, so you gotta try to get as much of that money in as possible. But how do you get your hands around that? I don't even begin to know.
We're getting breaking news.
NFL starts on time. Yeah, we are. Go ahead, Dave.
All right, which may affect LSU too, Tulane, all those schools that Chris Landry takes a good, hard, long look at. And we already mentioned the council today voted that they would open up the facilities.
Right.
They also just voted, according to Brett McMurphy, that one-time transfer waivers are now dead until at least 21-22. Apparently, the council approved a resolution to develop legislation regarding transfer eligibility for January 2021 that would not be effective until the 21-22 academic year. So there are a couple of very valuable transfers that the University of Memphis basketball team just got that now they've got to be voted in or cleared to be played by some group at the NCAA, but they're not going to get the immediate eligibility that many thought they would get coming in. And I know this is going to affect a whole bunch of folks.
Which, by the way, it was kind of expected they were going to do this, and I think it's the right thing, because can you imagine, to throw everything out, we just go to the original comment you were talking about. Well, it is a possibility that some part of the country, maybe like California, that maybe they have a bigger problem and maybe they can't play. But then can you imagine maybe potentially all the players that said, you know what, I'm wanting to go. And if there's an announcement in August and they say, hey, I'm transferring immediately because I'm a prospect, I want to go, you could see a complete mess of, on top of players that want to transfer anyway. Well, can you imagine if you have certain schools that, have an issue because of their location and you could have players immediately? It could not hold up in my view. And I think they saw that coming, that we've got to step back and figure this out, that, we got to figure out the best way to handle this transfer situation that's fair for players, that makes sense. But I think this whole pandemic situation opened up a can of worms for, now you throw in the potential of maybe some schools that may be, their season may be in more jeopardy, maybe even an entire conference. That could literally kill a conference in one fell swoop. If you had a situation that, let's just use example, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, let's say all of California had to be shut down because of some, we don't know. I don't know what's going to happen in the next several weeks or a month. Could you imagine that could completely shut down ruin an entire league? Because if the kids say, well, wait a minute, I can't play, I came here to play, I can't play basketball, I can't play football, I'm moving, and I'm going somewhere else. You'd literally just shut down a whole conference that would be starting over. That's not something that I think any of us we need to be doing right now, because in this time and age, the transfer rule is one thing. The pandemic situation, none of us were prepared for. Let's step back. Let's do the right thing. Let's make some sense of this. And then, we need to put some guardrails in this, because, we never do anything in the NCAA that is proactive. It's reactive. And we all know it's the name, image, and likeness that says, wait a minute, all the kids want to get paid. Well, no, we can't do that. So let's allow them to transfer anytime they want. They wake up at 10 o'clock in the morning and decide they're going to transfer at noon. Yeah, let's let them do it. And they realize, no, that's some negative repercussions of that. So I think it's smart that they're doing that, and I'm glad I figured they were going to come out with it soon, and I did hear earlier today that was going to be the case. I'm glad that they're not going down that path for now, and let's just figure that out later.
He is our friend, Chris Landry. You can look at him at LandryFootball.com. Good stuff today. I you know what? I'll be honest with you. I hadn't really thought about the pandemic effect on this transfer rule, but it makes all the sense in the world. Thank you, my friend. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Let's talk soon. Y'all be safe.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. We appreciate Chris Landry and our friends at All-Star Chevrolet and Olive Branch. They say congratulations to the high school and college class of 2020. We know it's been very disruptive for you, but it's a great time to help your grad get a new or pre-owned Chevy at All-Star Chevrolet and Olive Branch. And if you're ready to get that new Suburban, Silverado, Tahoe, Blazer, or even pre-order one of those hot new Corvettes, All-Star Chevy and Olive Branch, it's where you want to be. The people at All-Star Chevrolet, they make it fun. They make it easy, and they make it safe. Whatever makes you comfortable. They'll even bring any All-Star Chevy car, truck, or SUV to you, and you'll pay a lot less than at any of those city dealers. GM's financing can mean no payments for 4 months and 0 interest for 84 months. Any Equinox or Silverado, thousands in cash back with Blazers, Silverados, and much, much more. Everybody at All-Star Chevrolet, they've got one job. Make sure you get a better deal, have more fun, and do it in a record time, and all sanitized and safe for you. They even pick up and deliver for maintenance and service. Remember, it's not South Haven, it's not Mount Moriah or Collierville, and it's not the Pike. It's got to be Olive Branch. Find new roads to All-Star Chevy today, or go to allstarautogroup.com.
I mentioned a little earlier today the zoo opened up. Good for tourism, and you know what? We have people helping us with tourism all the time. We want to thank our sponsor, Memphis Tourism, and the Sports Council for all of the things that they support for the city. And not just being our sponsors, they are everywhere. So we can start with that. We also got news today that Tomley Park was going to be the scene of next year's Memphis in May. So they're going to get one more year. Guess what tourism does for that? They aid them in that. We got the FESJC coming up, the World Golf Championships. Guess who helps with that? That would be the Sports Council and the Memphis Tourism Council. They are working year-round to bring visitors and sporting events to our community, like the brand-new 70.3 Triathlon. Man, I hope that gets to work out today. They are always bringing, look, we got 901 FC. They're going to help make sure you know all about 901 FC. This is what they do.
On the way back.
Memphis Tourism and the Sports Council, we thank you for your support. We take this time out. When we come back, we had a wonderful conversation with David Waters from the Daily Memphian. He is next.
Sports 56 Mornings with Peter Edmiston and C.J. Hertz. Weekdays from 7 to 10. Only on Sports 56, 96.1 and 87.7 FM.
DeSoto Auto Sales specializes in late model cars with low mileage. They have the highest standards in the car industry. All of their cars are test driven, checked out from head to toe. Unlimited inventory, every make and model. And if it's not on the lot, they'll find it for you. Walk in the door of DeSoto Auto Sales, 5704 Goodman Road. Within 45 minutes, you can test your car, get credit approval, and finish paperwork within an hour. No shortcuts at DeSoto Auto Sales. Kind, courteous employees, a down-home environment. DeSoto Auto Sales cares
cares about your time. Lowest prices in a 350-mile radius. We're living in a world today where time does matter. Visit them online. Check out their referrals. DeSotoAutoSales.com. Very proud to serve DeSoto County and other surrounding areas. DeSoto Auto Sales, 5704 Goodman Road. Call 662-890-7184. 662-890-7184. Come on down to DeSoto Auto Sales.
I'm Dr. George Flynn with an update on the skin clinics and COVID-19. We continue to be open for elective medical procedures such as Botox, Scarlet, and Agnes. And we thank you for abiding by our new safety protocols and for your patience with longer than average times for appointments. We're still having reduced appointment times for the safety of our clients and staff. At this time, after consulting with outside medical experts also and following the community guidelines, we believe it best to wait to offer aesthetic services such as brow shaping, waxing, and facials. We look forward to offering these services as soon as possible. The Skin Clinics is currently accepting names for a waiting list that we will use to fill appointment times when we can begin offering these services and these procedures. Call us at 345-7546. That's 345-SKIN to book your medical procedure or to get on the waiting list for aesthetic treatments. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Got something you want to get off your chest?
You better have a backup plan.
Want to join the conversation?
Someone needs to tell him he has to grow up.
Join us on the First Bank phone lines at 360-8255 or the First Bank text line at 67129. Welcome back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Woloshin and Brett Norsworthy.
Our friend from the Daily Memphian, David Waters, on the spiritual, the religious side of the pandemic. He joins us here momentarily. I'll let you know this portion of the show brought to you by Conway Services, heating, cooling, plumbing, electric, and, of course, that famous Energy Saver Super Tune-Up. 16 parts to that tune-up to make sure your system is humming. It's efficient, and when it's efficient, it lasts longer. It saves you money on your MLGW bill. They come out. They're very, by the way, aware of social distancing and of sanitation. They put on these little gloves. They put on their mask, and they put on the slippers. They've been doing the slippers forever. They'll go into your inside closet. They'll clean up everything in there. They tune up the 16 parts. They replace your filter. Then they will walk out. They'll take their gloves, their mask, and their slippers off, and they'll go really work on your outside unit. And they get all the grime and the grit and the dirt and the leaves out of that little backside thing you haven't looked at in years. They'll put a little Teflon coating on the blades of the fan to protect it from the hot Memphis sun. And now you're done. And you will really thank me when you get your MLGW bill and that air conditioner is up high and your house is cool, but your bill is low. All you got to do is make the call, 384-3511, 384-3511. Conway Services, heating, cooling, plumbing, and electric. As promised a little bit earlier, we had a very nice discussion. Second time we've had him on since the pandemic began. The religious writer for the Daily Memphian, David Waters. David, thank you for giving us time this afternoon. How are you?
I'm good, Dave. Hi, Brett. Thanks for having me again.
Thank you for joining us again, David Waters. And Dave set it up perfectly. I mean, this roller coaster we've been on, what have you been on, and what are you experiencing in your interaction with people?
Well, I think it's been one of the most fascinating things I can remember. I have been incredibly impressed, and I think all the officials in Memphis have, especially the health officials, and how well Memphians have done in this pandemic, how well they've supported each other, how well they've followed some of the rules and regulations that have come down, how they've cooperated and collaborated. And I think that's, showing up in the numbers. The numbers over the past few weeks have been incredibly strong and encouraging, and really they've kind of shocked some of the doctors and how low they have become. And I talked to a doctor a couple of days ago, and he used the word unanticipated. He said he had no idea that the numbers would fall like they have and stay down like that. Now, that doesn't mean that things are over and we can all go back to normal. We can't, and that's the main message that they want to get out, is that we're far from seeing this thing be over. But so far, what we've all been doing has been working has been helping keep the numbers down, keep the numbers flat, and we have made remarkable progress, especially considering some of the other places in the country and the world that have had much more dire consequences.
And some of those that have bucked the system, so to speak, have really been preachers, men of religion that wanted their churches to remain open. And, some were defiant. Some actually were taken to jail because of it. That did not happen here, thank goodness. No. But there were some that just felt like this was wrong, and we're finding out more and more that inside, especially like choirs where singing is going on, which has the ability, because you are using your mouth and you're using your vocals to really project out, that we're getting bigger clusters there. What do you think the response has been, mainly locally here, from the religious leaders about doing this either online or not having their congregations together, which I know is a financial hardship for them?
Yeah, that's really true. It's a substantial hardship for a lot of churches, especially a lot of small churches that don't have the resources and don't have the, any kind of backup, any kind of money that they can count on in hard times. A lot of churches are living week to week, and they're paying their bills week to week, and they've got bills to pay. They've got utility bills to pay. They've got rent to pay. They've got pastor salaries and other things to pay, and they're living on collections, and they're living week to week, and a lot of these churches are hurting. I think there was a slow learning curve, and I think it took a while, a couple of weeks at least, for sort of all the churches and all the religious folks to sort of catch on to what the real problem was and why they needed to close and do the right thing. And I think that has happened generally. In fact, when people would get complaints, if you saw a church and it was still meeting late March, early April, people would call the city to complain. The city would go investigate, or the health department would go investigate. And they said 99 times out of 100, people either just weren't aware yet or weren't aware of exactly what they should be doing yet. And they were fine. Once everything was explained, they closed the place down and they went about doing other things other ways. So I think it was just a learning curve for a lot of people. I also think that there were a few folks and a few preachers who decided that, their faith was going to, they were going to show how faithful they are by not being afraid to continue to worship and pray and praise God together. Now, I think there's a certain level of understanding we all have about that sort of approach, because we all believe that, we should not show our fear in the face of this. And some people don't wear masks because they don't want to show fear. Some people want to go to church and be together because they don't want to show fear. But I think everybody ultimately has realized that it's not about showing fear. It's about protecting not only ourselves, but each other. And that the best way you can show your faith in your fellow man and in your community is to practice safe social distancing and to be concerned about the other person. And that's why you wear a mask. And that's why you don't go out in large crowds and worship together or party together, because you are showing that you care about your neighbor and you don't want to spread the virus to them any more than you want it to spread to you.
David, you mentioned about the shutdown, and a little surprised, a little shocked on how well that we did. If we had to do it again anytime soon, and by soon, maybe even over the course of the next 6 months to a year, do you think there's any shot that we would do it again? We did it one time. Do you think if we had to, a second wave or something else, COVID-20, what if we had to do it again?
Well, let's pray that there's no such thing as COVID-20. But yeah, I think that's a real concern, and I think that that's something that we may have to face, especially in the fall. I do think we can do it again if we need to. I think that this community can rally around our leaders and each other, especially our health officials. If they say that we need to do it, I think we'll do it. I think the hardest part is going to be coming in August, when school is supposed to start back, not just K-12, but college campuses as well, daycares. That's when people are really going to be ready to go back to work, need to go back to work, need to have the kids in school and daycare. And I think that's going to be the real test, not only how we do that and how safely we do that, but what happens if there are outbreaks, there are clusters of outbreaks in various schools or in various places because of that. Normally, the summer months, there's a lot of people scattered on vacations, and, people are not going to church as much as they usually do during the year. So it might be a little easier to go through phase 2 and phase 3 as we move into the summer. But once the summer comes to an end and school year starts, that's going to be the challenge. And I think that the public officials are definitely aware of that. And so one of the things they're trying to do is, in order to make sure that we don't have to do another lockdown, even if the numbers start creeping up, one of the best ways to prevent that, according to the epidemiologists who are in charge of this thing, and they truly are in charge of what decisions are being made, at least in Memphis and Shelby County, they're saying that we've got to have, number one, more testing. And in fact, we've got to have not only more testing, we've got to have a system where we can have every school kid, every college kid, every person who works at various businesses, hospitals, first responders, FedEx, whoever, to have the ability to test everybody on a weekly basis. Now, I know that sounds crazy, and it sounds impossible, and it might prove to be. But they come up with new tests that they call self-administered tests. So you can take the swab and swab yourself, or you can swab your kid, or a teacher can swab a kid. And they put the swab in a bag, and they get the bag sent to a lab, and it's tested. And if you did that every week, it's a pretty quick thing. It's not painful like the current testing is. If you were able to do that with every kid or every teacher and every business person, at least once a week, if not once every other week, then you'd be able to catch most cases, and you'd be able to isolate and quarantine those people who test positive. And that's how you keep the schools open, and that's how you keep the colleges open and keep businesses open. Now, you're talking about a massive mobilization here, logistical challenge. You're talking about 20, 30, 40,000 tests a week, which sounds impossible, but they claim that it can be done. And so they're trying to figure out a way to make that happen. And that may be the way that we go forward, not only locally, but as nationally, until we get a vaccine.
You are saying exactly what the mayor actually told us yesterday about the testing. And I will relay a little story. My wife, who was very leery of getting the tests the way they were being done at these testing centers, because they would literally take the Q-tips, the swab thing, and they would send it way up your nostril, where I've heard people say you feel like they're going in your brain, and it is really, really uncomfortable. Then she heard about this self-test, and she went and got it. I think it was at the Walgreens parking lot, or I should find out for sure. She went and got it done, no pain whatsoever, and within 24 hours she got the result. And that's what we're going to talk about. I want to take this a step further, though, because we're talking about the kids and the ability to test those people, and I get that. One thing I think we forget about with these kids, going back to school, is how old are the teachers? If you're talking about what's the average U of M professor age when he gets to that age or she gets to that age, it's in the higher risk category.
Dave, what's the average congregant at any faith place?
I don't know. It's older. It's not like a 25-year-old college kid going to school, or a 22-year-old that's going to go to a football game. We're talking about people trying to do their job that are in their 60s, whether it's grammar school, high school, or college. What about those teachers? Where are we? What are we going to do about them?
Well, that's a great point, and that's something that they're definitely talking about, trying to figure out. Not only do you have a lot of folks, a lot of teachers, a lot of people in workplaces who are over 60, but you've also got a lot of folks who have underlying conditions like obesity and diabetes and high blood pressure. So if you add all that up, you're probably talking about a majority of employees in most schools and most colleges and most places. So what do you do about that? And one of the things they've been talking about is, do you have teachers test the kids? Well, that could be problematic if the teachers are in a high-risk situation. So do you try to hire somebody or point like a one person per school to do all the testing. Maybe it's a part-time nurse or something like that. I mean, they're trying to weigh and measure all of these things to try to figure this out. It's a logistical challenge. You know, it's really a FedEx. It's such a big logistical challenge. They claim they can get the test. They claim they can make the lab space to get the test. They've got this new way of testing that they call pooling. So you test 10 people, you have 10 samples, and you test all 10 of those samples at one time. And that saves you 90% of your cost. And they still think you can find out all the positives from that. So they're working on this, and it's going to be a real challenge. But honestly, a lot of the docs don't see any other way to open schools this fall if we're not having mass testing.
David, it's never easy to be a person of faith, and whatever that is. I'm not talking about whether it's Jewish, Gentile, whatever it is. To be a person of faith, like anything else of any discipline, it's hard to be a disciplined exerciser or a disciplined proper eater. What do you say to people that their faith has really been rattled during during this pandemic?
Yeah, well, how could it not be? Anytime there's a crisis of this magnitude, whether it's a war or whether it's depression or whether it's some kind of disease or even a personal crisis in your family, that's going to test your faith. And I've talked to so many people over the years who have had their faith tested personally, professionally, in a community setting, nationally, and I think that bottom line, that's what faith is all about, really. I mean, if you can't rely on your faith and call on your faith in times of trouble, then what good is it? But I also think that one of the particular challenges for this time and this disease and the social distancing that we have been required to do is that you don't have as much contact with other people in your community, in your family. You can't hug people like you used to. You can't sit with people and pray with people and have dinner with people and church suppers and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's been as much of a challenge as anything to people's faith, because I think people are realizing that faith is not an individual act. It's not a private thing. It's a community-based thing. It's something you do with your family, with other people of faith. And that gives you strength, and that gives you the courage and fortitude you need to get through times like this. So I think that's been the challenge as much as anything else. And I think Zoom helps a little bit, but I've done church on Zoom. I've done Bible study on Zoom. I've done family meetings on Zoom, and it's fine, but it's not what you really need. So going forward, I think that is going to be the hardest thing. And I think it's also something we have to keep in mind with kids. Kids are used to going to school and being with other kids and being with their teachers and seeing their family members and playing with neighbors. And, they haven't had that. So what kind of impact is that going to have on them short term and long term? And I think that that's another reason that officials are working so hard to make sure that we can open schools this fall, because it's not just about the academic support that these kids need. It's about the social and emotional support that schools provide these kids, especially kids in distressed homes and neighborhoods.
This is a topic for another day, and we'll probably do this one more time before this pandemic is over. But as far as religious leaders go, so many of them are, have specialties in a particular aspect of history or prayer. Some are just great orators and sermons. I got a feeling some of these roles will change to being more psychological counselors, guiding in that way, maybe using religion too, but really being counselors, bringing people back from what could very well be a very devastating situation that they find themselves in now.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, I think if you talk to just about any clergy person, no matter what faith, I think most of them know or realize that, a big part of their role, if not the biggest part of their role, is pastoral. It's not just standing up in front and preaching or teaching, and it's not running an organization, not, sitting in theology classes and doing all that kind of thing. It's just being with other people and finding ways to support them and help them get through hard times. And that's taken a real hit because you can't meet with people like you used to.
Right.
So I think that one of the challenges for people of faith in general and pastors and clergy leaders in particular is trying to figure out what you do in times like this when you can't be in with another person face to face in a counseling situation, in a small group situation, or a large gathering. How do you connect with people? How do you be with people, be present with people? So much of what clergy do when they make visits to hospitals or make visits to home shut-ins or people who are sick is just to be with them. They don't have to tell them anything or teach them anything. It's just that their presence that makes a difference. The fact that they care. And that has, you can't even visit people in the hospital now. So
yeah, that's sad.
I think that's been a real challenge, and it's going to continue to be for all of us, but especially for clergy leaders.
He is David Waters. You read him in the Daily Memphian. Really, thanks again. I'm sure we'll do this one more time. We truly appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys. Good to talk to you.
David Waters from the Daily Memphian. And it was brought to you in part by the good folks at Conway. Conway Services, heating, cooling, plumbing, and electric. We take the time out. When we come back, it'll be time for Crunch Time.
Search Sports 56 on Facebook and give us a like. And follow us on Twitter at Sports 56 WHBQ.
This is Stacy on her motorcycle.
What an incredible view!
And this is Stacy off her motorcycle.
Does this have sucralose in it?
On her motorcycle.
Oh, the wind in my hair!
Off her motorcycle.
It's pronounced et cetera, not etc.
On.
Woohoo! Yes!
Off.
No.
You're better on your bike. And with basic policy starting at $75 a year, quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Annual premium for basic liability policy not available in all states.
Tee it up at Edwin Watts Golf Shops with their Memorial Day sale happening May 22nd through the 25th. All Nike golf shoes are 25% off. Score an epic deal on Callaway's Epic Flash Driver, now only $349. Save big with the G400 driver, now only $249. Remember, the more you buy, the more you save, and receive up to 25% off all apparel. Edwin Watts Golf Shops Memorial Day sale happening May 22nd and May 25th. Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 90-day 100% satisfaction guarantee, serving golfers since 1968.
At Jason's Deli, you can stuff yourself full of great deli food that's healthy, fresh, and best of all, it's not expensive. Jason's Deli is all about choice. Whether you're looking for a gluten-free menu, vegetarian sandwiches, healthy kids' meals, or if you'd like to invent your sandwich via the build-your-own selections, Jason's Deli has you covered. And they only use fresh, wholesome ingredients. Choose from the club and specialty sandwiches, paninis, wraps, soups, salads, pastas, and much more. I love the cleanliness in the restaurant, the hospitality, and of course the cost. They have a huge salad bar and great soups, including Southwest chicken chili, fire roasted tortilla, organic vegetable, tomato basil, and many, many more. And if you're planning an event, their catering department is fantastic and can handle any size party. Go check out Jason's Deli's 4 locations. On Ridgeway in the Park Place Center, that's my favorite, on Germantown Parkway in Cordova, at Poplar and Highland, and on Goodman Road in Olive Branch.
Welcome back to Sports Time on Sports 56 with Wolo and Stats. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Wolosian and Brad Norsworthy.
Come on, Muhammad, we hit fame. We beat you with the deal, we get in fame.
Welcome back. Final portion of our Wednesday program brought to you by Homer Skelton Hyundai and Genesis of Olive Branch. This is the place I call the Standard. They are the bar that you kind of shoot for if you're in the car business. At least that is my thinking, and it's because of the way they think. They are always giving you incentives like 0% financing for 84 months on either a Hyundai or a Genesis car. Or, to make it even more enticing, don't make your first payment on select models until 120 days into the deal. You got 4 months to make your first payment, and you never pay interest on your loan on a Hyundai or a Genesis, your pick. And I would go that Genesis if I were you. Go take a test drive of my G70. You will fall in love. You'll fall in love with performance. You'll fall in love with speed. You'll fall in love with all the safety technology. I push a button, the car drives itself. And you'll fall in love with the 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty. That's on both Hyundais and on Genesis. This is why you want to get on Lamar. You take it to Mississippi. At State Line Road, it becomes Highway 78. The very first exit's Craft Road. Turn left, you're there. You're at the place where car business is nirvana. I promise you'll love it at Homer Skelton Hyundai and Genesis of Olive Branch. It is time for Crunch Time.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy! This is for all the biggest crunch time.
You are looking live. In your life have you seen anything like that?
We'll take questions again for the student athletes at this time, please.
What's happening, big dog? How you doing?
Is this thing working?
It's obviously crunch time.
Hammer, nail, coffin. This baby is over.
Woo! Woo! Time for Taco Bell Crunch Time. Taco Bell, home of the crispy tortilla chips, topped with a double portion of either seasoned beef or shredded chicken, plus refried beans, nacho cheese sauce, reduced fat sour cream, guacamole, and a 3-cheese blend. Nachos Bel Grande, heaping portion of chips, topped with ground beef, tomatoes, beans, nacho cheese sauce, and a dollop of sour cream. Taco Bell, home to great food you get on your way home real fast, and they bring you crunch time every day. Dave, we learned today that the NBA, they're not bickering like baseball. They're making a lot of progress. Woj said it's not a matter of when it will it return, but when it returns for the NBA. And even talking about the quicker pace of a shorter camp in maybe late June. They're trying to beat baseball to that marketplace of people ready to watch anything. Sure, ready to watch good NBA games.
Yeah, we learned a lot of things today. We learned that transfer waivers, they're dead until at least 2021-22. That is sad for really good players like Landers Nolly and DeAndre Williams unless they get a special exemption. We learned today Bud Grant had another birthday. The mighty Viking is 95 years old. But we also learned today that our good friend Jim Riggs, who was the general manager of the Memphis River Kings, worked for the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, but hockey was his passion. Hockey was his sport. Promotions was his game. His wife, Stacy, always at his side. Jim Riggs passed away from a heart attack at the age of 69 years of age. He would have been 70 in August. He was working in Little River, South Carolina. He left way too early. Jim Riggs passed away.
You know, up until just a few years ago, I'm going to say well into the late 80s, Bud Grant would hunt over here in eastern Arkansas with one of his former players for the Minnesota Vikings, Jim Lindsay, at some of his good hunting places. And they said, just like when he was the coach, that on the coldest morning of duck hunting, he didn't need a lot of, extra layers on. He was one tough guy. He wouldn't let them wear jackets and long sleeves on the sidelines outdoors in Bloomington.
It was freezing, man. That old ballpark.
That's when
that was all concrete and steel and 20
cold.
below. Crazy.
All of it frozen. I could have done without it. I'm about to the end of the line for me with The Last Dance. I know it's been good programming for a lot of people, but boy, ESPN has played it and played it and played it. If Horace Grant is mad at Michael Jordan or Michael Jordan's mad at Horace Grant, I really don't care. But I do like this about Horace Grant. Michael Jordan can be taken on, can he?
Sure he can.
Of course he can. Anybody can be.
I think it's sad because you could tell by the way Horace Grant spoke on that show that he really loved being on that team and he loved playing with Michael Jordan. And here we are 20 years later, and they're going to bicker over the assertion that a guest that was a regular on the radio show that I did with George Lapidus, it was George Lapidus' guest, Sam Smith, that he was the source for that book, and this is the source that these guys may not be getting together for drinks and cigars and
you know who's loving
memories. Who?
Sam.
Oh, well, Sam's gotten a lot of ink out of this, and probably sold a few more books out of it as well. Here's what I could have done without. South Korea's FC Seoul. They were hit with a record fine, $1 million won, which is $82,000 in American money. The reason they got fined by the K-League in South Korea is because to fill an empty stadium, they were supposed to use mannequins to make it look better on TV. Instead of using mannequins, they used sex toys.
Yeah.
Ha!
Sex dolls, not toys.
Sex
There's
dolls. Okay. You're right. Sex dolls.
I mean, they didn't break out the wait.
Well, I hate to say this, but technically I am right. A sex doll is a sex toy, is it not?
If you want it to be, I guess it can be. Look, the pandemic's been tough on us all day.
It sure has.
Keeping a close eye tonight on whether we have a job tomorrow at 3 o'clock. No, keeping a close eye on Tom Glavine is so right about the perception, but perception is not always reality. I'm pro player. I hate to see the player this squeezed out, but they're going to be. NHL with even more cities announced. Nashville probably going to be one of their spots to start games. And Vince McMahon talking about restarting the XFL. Who wants to sign up for round 3 of that?
Oliver Luck's not going to. I can promise you that.
Not a chance.
I'll take it. I need my Dallas Renegades back.
Oh no! Wonder who has the 2-for-2 dealing with the XFL. What cities got hit both times?
Ooh,
I'm glad Memphis didn't.
No, and they could have. They very could.
Oh.
You know what, though? In the next grouping, they could be in.
Oh, please say no.
They could be in. That could happen.
No XFL.
You were anti-XFL the whole way.
Come on, give me the maniac.
Let's do it.
I'm going to keep an eye on. You're saying Ohio State is eyeing games with 20 to 25,000 in their horseshoe?
Yes.
That seats 80,000, right? So that's about 25%.
About 100,000.
Oh, seats 100,000?
About 25%.
Oh, so 25%. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. We'll have to wait and see. We want to thank David Waters, TJ Reeves, Rick Horo, and Chris Landry for being on the program. A reminder tomorrow in our 3:30 slot, Darryl Green, the very talented anchor from Fox 13, will be with us. I'm looking forward to that show. That is for sure. We will also have Tim Doolin and Rich Waltz, who does a bunch of Marlins games and college basketball. Should be interesting. And I look forward to it. Everybody else, have a good night. Same time, same place tomorrow.
I'm here with Robert